SWAT box, what are you doing here? This is a combat zone. It's restricted. Ease off on your main thruster and head over to patreon.com/SWOCBC for episodes of our all-new series, Inside the Insider, where the gang explores articles from every single issue of the official Star Wars Insider fan magazine in order and get an even closer look at how Star Wars and its fandom have evolved over the years. New episodes with each public upload months earlier for patrons. Red 24, Red 30, follow me to patreon.com/SWOCBC for the latest episode of SWAT Box. Inside the Insider today. In target range. It's ahead. All ships jump to light speed.
The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/SWOCBC for ad-free episodes, reading guides, movie and TV episode audio watch-alongs, and more. Today's Old Canon fact of the day comes from Star Wars, the new essential guide to characters, revised edition by Daniel Wallace, first published in April of 2002. Little is known about Lando Calrissian's early years, and the stories he tells about his youth are so outrageous that nobody knows what to believe. Some of the earliest verifiable information dates back to 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, when Calrissian was approximately 27 years old. He was already a professional gambler, fleecing rich tourists aboard interstellar luxury liners such as the Queen of Empire. Today's selection is Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon, a novel by L. Neil Smith, first released on September 12, 1983. Enjoy the show, and may the Force be with you, always.
Yato. Hey, what's up, my little SWOCBockers? My SWOCKerbockers?
Swackerbockers. Like
SWOCKerbockers?
the Knickerbocker.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly. SWOCKerbockers. It's
Is that some future fake merch we'll never make?
SWOCKerbockers?
Yeah.
SWOCKerbocker Knickerbockers?
You're gonna look so swell.
Do you think we could do some sort of like Swackerbocker, but it's overalls? Like denim overalls?
Like
that say-
SWOCBock Bagok?
Yeah, Swackerbocker, dude.
What are
got a chicken on it with a lightsaber?
Wewa Fibot over here?
Yeah. No, actually,
Sick
I was
reference.
doing Boosh.
Ah, right.
Oh.
Boosh, as they call her on the toy card, like probably like Boosh Leia or something like that, like Leia Boosh, Mighty Boosh.
Right.
Anyway, we are back in our cavalcade of. Ew! Did you hear my voice just do that weird thing it just did?
No.
It was like rah, it did that like weird like
No.
in the back of your throat thing. We're back with our cavalcade of Lando Fall
To cover the Empire Strikes Back of the Lando trilogy.
the dark center where everything falls apart. Actually, like
This was kind of dark.
it had like the Return of the King like twist endings where I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa at the end. But this is Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon, which I didn't think that the Flamewind of Oseon was going to be so prominent, but it really is.
I'm starting to think that based on the last two ones, that the Star Cave of Thambaka is going to be a pretty central part of the book.
An actual Star Cave.
Yeah.
On Baka.
On the whole, this is a very similar, actually a little bit more enjoyable in the classical sense because it doesn't take a very big and weird swing. The end of the first one with all the weird thing that was like supposed to be like big mind, like galaxy brain, but then also like they were on a conveyor belt at a museum. It was like very like weird and half baked. This at least didn't have that, and it was like kind of interesting. It still has all the same problems to me where like so much is like half baked. And it's so short that when I thought the story was finally going, it was over. I was like, oh, we're done. Oh, okay.
That's how these Han and Lando books have been each
It
time.
does
Yeah.
have this vibe of it's supposed to be one book, but also
It's like a TV
not.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a TV show vibe. Yeah.
But then there's a lot of conflicting information. And I don't know, some of it is like commentary, and I don't know if some of it is because he wrote all of this shit in like 2 days.
Yeah, that's the thing. Here's what I was gonna say. Like, this one feels like way more confident of like Star Wars than the other one. And if we're talking still about the like protoverse, which I think we kind of are, I think the things that define the protoverse version of Star Wars is that like certain big things about how Star Wars work are still missing. And so to like address what you were saying, and I think this is actually true, there's still some shit in there that's like, what in the fuck what are you talking about? I think that's because Star Wars as a franchise was still trying to figure out what does like another villain look like in Star Wars? Because I think that's like a big, I think that's a big part of this. That's like, this feels more like another Kang or something like that. This feels like they're trying to do like another.
You're talking about with Roker Gepta?
He's clearly going to be
he's the big bad.
Yeah, he's clearly going to be the JRPG boss of this whole situation when he turns into the god form that he has or whatever.
He's another weird, but he's another example of literally contradictory information about this person where I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to wait for the third book to get any answers, but everything is like teased as being scientifically based. But also, at one point, he inverts his body into a like shapeless, formless, cosmic horror being for a second, and then shapes back to a person.
I think he's supposed to be a shapeshifter,
a shape-shifting
that
alien.
has a true form, and his true form is like, it would blow our minds.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of quotes about the sorcerers of whatever they're called,
the Tund,
like the Tund and like other stuff.
They
keep being like, it's all reproducible with electronics, and then like in the end, there's like an electronic head matrix plugin.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what is it, or is it supposed to be?
No, I think it's.
Are you supposed to try to guess what the answer is?
I think it's supposed to be a mystery,
No,
but it's
I don't
like
think
told
it's a mystery.
weirdly.
I think it's very straightforward. I mean, it's a little bit mystery and the intrigue of it all, of him like revealing who he is and stuff.
There's a bunch of times he does superhuman things.
Let me tell you what I think it is.
And he lives forever. And there's other times where it's like, he threw a firecracker to light his way, or there's an electronics array that allows this.
Let me tell you what I think it is, and then you tell me if this squares with you. Because here's why I don't see a contradiction, and I think it is because what he is a guy who is like an immortal of some kind. He has some kind of thing about his physiology, right? Not because he's magic, but because of something about his physiology. Like if Morph from the X-Men or Mystique from the X-Men can just be biological, so too can this man. And I think he's not really a cosmic horror being so much as he's like a kind of psychedelic situation shape in his natural form. And he's being unclear about what it is to sort of make it seem more horrific. But I think the truth is he's an immortal being that changes shape a lot, but is like also like Littlefinger. And for like the last couple hundred years, what he's been doing is moonlighting as a sorcerer and keeping it a secret that the sorcerers of Tund are really anything besides a bunch of dead magicians that he took over. And that he kind of cuckoo-birded them and took them over.
Genuinely I don't know.
That's what I believe it to be. Again, I think it goes back to just them not really understanding yet exactly what a Star Wars, like a new bad guy from Star Wars is.
I'm positive if we were to Wikipedia this,
yeah,
there would be answers. I don't want to do that because I don't want to ruin what this becomes.
He probably makes a decision. Yeah, he probably makes a decision.
Well, and that's why, like, also there's still a third book, and it's clear that he's throughout these. So I don't want to look it up either. I do have a bunch of quotes from this that we can read through. That
we'll get to him in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm like, we'll go through it in order though.
I will say the biggest shock I had coming back to this book was forgetting, and we talked about it in the last episode too, that the writing is kind of like a lot.
Yeah.
And so when this book started, and the first 5-6 pages are straight up the most technical jargon about the droid and the world, and it's dropping names, and I was just like, oh god, we're doing this again. But with that said, even though I'm not a big fan of the writing style, this book was the exact Star Wars I want these days, which is, it wasn't really a Star Wars story. It was an undercover sting operation in the Star Wars universe. And I was like, I love that. That's what I want. I need more of that in Star Wars.
It was sick, and it's as much Star Wars as anything could have been at the time, I believe.
Sure. But the idea of Star Wars should be it's stories told in this universe, but it doesn't have to be like...
Oh, that aspect is...
I love that.
The best part of this.
Yeah.
And
it was really well done.
I think also it's worth mentioning that, like, I think that part of the intention here, and as sort of like Redwall feast description or Tolkien-esque 4-page description of the landscape type stuff it does feel like with that sort of stuff in this book, which is kind of a lot even for a book that's just 180 pages. There's a lot of like a descriptive text. I will say this guy, L. Neil Smith, he has like a really good rhythm and prose to his, it's really groovy and really wacky and really cartoonish and really like, you can tell the man has a command of the words that he's writing and is choosing
I
to
do
create
like a
effect.
lot. It's tough because it feels so fast, like quickly written.
Yeah, it
but
really
there
is.
is a lot of fun stuff, and he does like to do like psychedelic. Like there's a lot of mental stuff that is done well, so I do like that. And I wonder if his other books where he put a little more time into them, like if it gels a little bit better.
Well, what I was going to say is like, I think that part of it also is that he's definitely, and part of the reason probably why he was able to write them so quickly is because I think there's like an element of like melodrama to this. How do I describe? Have you guys seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Sure.
Yeah.
At the end when it freezes, any of those movies where like, ba-ding! And they're like all frozen and everybody's running. It's like, I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how it goes. And it becomes almost like a fairy tale fable in a lot of ways. Like this book moves at such a clip that it almost feels like you're watching a dinner theater version of it. Like it's so fast. And I don't think he's not leaning into it. Definitely because of that, you're left with this sort of roughshod kind of vibe that just kind of slam tankerously pops around from one thing to the other. It tells the story. You can tell the guy knows how to write, but it's like TV episode-y. But I think in realizing that, I also feel like he's trying to write something that's kind of melodramatic in that way.
It has the same vibe as many people from many 80s babies who played any Nintendo in late 80s, early 90s will know that a lot of the movie tie-ins, what they did is they would just reskin a game that came out in Japan that America never got.
Yep.
This, for some reason, feels like that. Like he had an idea for a series of books or a plot or something, and then just threw Lando and Star Wars over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I feel that way, but I like while reading it, I'm like, this could be anyone. This doesn't have to be Star Wars. This doesn't have to be Lando. This could be any roguish character. It's there, and I wonder if maybe that's how he could write it so quickly. Is that he had an idea for? Because there's a lot of things in here that are trippy that don't seem Star Wars.
Mechanics wise, across this whole thing, there's stuff that, like I say, it could be
the
that.
problem is that like maybe he had like a loose outline, but there's so many things that don't come together neatly. Like the people that are trying to kill Lando all book. In the end, it's just like, oh, this is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, but
Doesn't really tie into almost anything.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
nicely.
more. It's like more. That's what I'm saying. It's like more for the bit of it.
That was definitely for the fighters are definitely for the bit.
Yeah. Well, the bit and
They were like, oh shit, we set up this sort of mystery. I guess here's the answer.
Yeah.
We're just gonna explain
No
it
real
all at once.
payoff.
I know.
Yeah.
I think from the beginning it was all supposed to be kind of funny. Also, I think that part of it is that this guy Roker Gepta, because he is like a fraud. Like each time that he gets
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about like
talking about
the
the
people from
fighters-
the backwater
no, exactly.
civilization.
No,
where they're like,
exactly.
that-
But I'm saying the whole thing. The whole thing feels like they're.
You know what I just realized? It's the plot. It's literally the plot from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just straight up the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 plot.
Like
That's crazy.
Like full on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, wow.
Especially with that really tall chick.
That's what I'm saying. The gold people
Yeah.
chasing him down.
Yeah, it's like you
And they're
find
like,
out what
"Actually, we're your friends.
because you find out what it is and you go, oh, it's such a stupid. Because like what the plan is. Well, we'll get to how dumb the plan is. The plan is so stupid that I think that it's supposed to land like all's well that ends well. You know what I mean? I think it's supposed to land like a farce.
But also, see you in the next
Right,
one.
yeah,
where
like when
the
Rush-
bad guy's back
when Rush makes like a pun and Mega Man and Roll and Dr. Light like
and freeze.
I think why it doesn't quite work that well for me is that when he writes characters and their thoughts, they're very interesting and well written. But then some of these things are supposed to be kind of like, if they're light, you're like, but then why did you do this whole speech about seeking meaning in all this shit? And then you're like,
I think it's
all
all
right.
fluffy. I think it's just we're in an age where that type of thing doesn't read as fluffy anymore because it's inconceivable that somebody would buy this at a grocery store and read it and understand somebody waxing poetic like that or be interested in it. Where in a world today where book talk is talking about like, just take out the parts where you say stuff that's not the plot, you know, the diametric opposite. But also, I don't think the book is a 10. I think it's just kind of like,
sure.
he's not
That's what I'm like,
I don't think he's succeeding all the way across. It's just, I think what he's trying to build is almost like a ramshackle cowboy romance type thing that doesn't feel too serious.
Yeah, I can't not put my own like experience with creating stuff where like you ever had to like bang out something and there's some great ideas, but it is not baked.
That's 100%.
And that's
what
the
this
only
is.
like,
Yeah.
because it's like they still continue even the bits of like, don't call me master throughout this whole book. It's just it's not a good bit. And they keep it going. He adds a new bit about like, get yourself together, Vuffi Raa. Where you're like, I don't know. You're just like, there's so many like things where it's just like, I really don't know that if it's intentional or if the simpler explanation is just banged it out and they were like, no, this is good. Let's just put it out.
Look, like, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, but I do think that the tone of this book is like pretty comedy-ish. Like, I don't think this is like I don't think this is a book that's like bad. Like, the villains are funny. Like, the villains are
This
dumb.
is very similar to the Han Solo stuff where like, was it the second one that had the most kind of like Butch Cassidy?
They're like Adam Sandler. They're like Adam Sandler movie villains. They're
and
like,
he's a great character for that because Lando is down to just make it happen in any situation. Like he's like an unserious Han Solo. He's like how he works. He's like if Han Solo was an anime character, he'd be Lando. He's funny because he like puts on airs, but will absolutely do whatever to stay alive. So it like just inherently is humorous.
He's straight up just the dude from Big Trouble in Little China. He's Jack Barton.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's just even the bit at the end of that movie where it's like, well, aren't you gonna kiss her? He's like, no, and walks away. That's Lando.
Hilarious. Yeah,
he's that guy.
The best bit of
the difference is that he actually is really good at
one
thing.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
The best bit in this whole book, best Lando character bit for me in this whole book is they make this whole business for like the entire book about that it was like a capital offense for him to bring this gun onto this planet. And then in the very last scene, he gets shaken down and he's like, he gives up his gun and then he gives up, they're like, give me the other one. And in any other story, it would be like a tiny bitch gun. And it's literally an exact same copy of the same exact gun again. Cause he's like, that's my style. That's fucking, that's like so funny in a way where like Doug opens his closet and there's like 10 of the same outfit in the cartoon Doug.
It's also just weird because it's the Sting Beam, which I thought was a stun gun in the first book. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that he has a stun gun. No, it's like
just like a little,
it's basically like a little Derringer.
It's
like
a
little,
sexy little gun. Yeah.
He like says that it's his only one, and then he has two in the end.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. I'm like,
fucking
there's
hilarious.
So many weird things where you're like,
two of the same exact.
Is it hilarious?
That's really cute.
Or
though.
it's just,
I like it.
Why would you in your inner thoughts say that you only have one and then later you have two? That just is like inconsistent to me. That's just weird to be like, oh, and he has another one.
It could be that he only brought it to this one last time.
I mean, that's a fake out for the reader, not the. I mean, you're right.
It's still, it doesn't
for
make
the reader, not for the
make
world.
sense, but it's such a funny joke. Yeah,
does. It actually, you know what? What is that movie that they like came out when we were in high school or college where it was like a kung fu movie where they like green screened a dude in?
Oh yeah, Kung Pao, End of the Fist. Well, he punches that dude's like whole middle
except
out.
again for a lot of the like philosophical musings that are serious throughout this book. There are a lot of events that I could see it being farcical like that. It's just there is some weird thing where like some of it is serious and some of it is
if you wanted
nonsense.
To compare it, if you wanted to compare it to a movie specifically, like where if I wouldn't do that in my own mind, but if I did, I would say something like a Nice Guys, where it's like these guys are sad people, these guys have real issues, or like Lethal Weapon. These guys are real serious sad people who are thinking real things, but then they get in these situations where like
this one has the vibe of Rush Hour 2.
Yeah, well, sure, but like same, you get what I'm saying. Like when Ryan Gosling like breaks the window to like break into that place and his entire heist is like stymied because he slices his wrist and has to like go to the hospital and it just is over now. There's just bits throughout this. You're as right as you are about the inconsistencies and how it does in fact weaken this book. In my experience in reading it, and I actually read this book twice because I like forgot to write an outline and then woke up this morning at 4 a.m. and read the whole book again and wrote an outline. The second time that I read it was like New Game Plus for me, and I just felt so much less confused by it because I knew it was going to happen, obviously. I felt like I felt the pace of it more or something. I don't know.
Also, they were like jumped back into the past without clearly explaining. So for a little bit, I was like, wait, I'm confused. He was just almost killed for a second time, but they're doing a flashback. They just didn't indicate it. So it's like, all right, cool.
That's why people were confused about Pulp Fiction too. Something to think about. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. This might be the Pulp Fiction of books. I'm just saying. I'm just saying Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon might be the.
But like,
is it?
Might change books.
It's fine. There are times where like Memento, the first season of The Witcher,
I was absolutely
where like
being
jumping around in time can be interesting.
I agree.
Here it was just weird because you could have told it in chronological order, and I don't think it would have affected the story at fucking all.
Swoop bike is this?
But that's why I think it's. But that's why I think it's a bit. That's why I think it's like mostly bits. Like it's bits.
Who's Lando?
But
Lando's dead, baby.
Lando's dead.
I
want the pot. I want the pot and the big coffin. I want the big coffin.
Oh no!
All right, do you want to just go through it?
What's it like?
I guess a couple of overview thoughts. knowing that the author is like
Bring out the Vuffi.
the
Vuffi
creator
Raa sleeping.
and winner of the Libertarian Author Award is really, there's just a bunch of quotes where you're like, yeah. And
This
I
one-
guess
this one
Lando
isn't
is
a libertarian.
yeah.
Pure and simple.
But like
yeah.
the dream, he's like the dream of a libertarian outside of the like reality of American politics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
the way that it never would work in reality because that's not how the world works. In Star Wars, it does work this way. And libertarians
Galaxy's a big place, man.
libertarian philosophies are appealing for this reason. What they say is not bad stuff. It's just in practice, it just doesn't end up like that. You know?
Yeah.
That's everything.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's like,
Everything
it's
cool.
it's like a great thought, except for that's not how people work.
I was going to
So
say this
you
one's a little
can't-
bit less heavy-handed than the first book. The first book has like some like directly political rants in it about like freedom and stuff. In this, it's mostly like these two
He
guys being
shits
friends.
on capitalism, like,
Oh, a lot.
and then shits on the way that governments are run and stuff
Yeah.
a lot.
that
But
might
yeah.
have been libertarian back then, but
Which
I
is
could- yeah, I
which is
could-
kind of fine for working with Imperial undercover agents. Like, all right,
Yeah.
I get it. I get being like, I hate all this.
yeah, and I just didn't feel so like this one felt much more of like a buddy movie than the previous one.
Yes,
In
yeah,
the f-
that's what I was saying. It felt like Rush Hour 2. This is a vibe.
In the
Yeah.
previous one, they realized they were buddies.
Him and Vuffi are just like buds throughout.
And it's
Yeah.
a great, I love their, like, the development of Lando as a character and the development of Vuffi Raa as a character for the most part, I really have no problem with in this book. Like, even characters like Bossy, which is a hilarious name, by the way, just as a joke. And again, bits. Her fucking name is Bossy, bro. Anyway.
Yeah, that aspect of it works. Again, they're like back and forth bits about like don't call me master is like it's just distractingly like non-effective.
It worked. There was
To
one line.
copy that it's like fucking Guardians 2. You remember in Guardians 2 a running gag was like some fruit that wasn't ripe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then that was the bit, and then in the end she took a bite and it wasn't ripe. This is not a good bit. Stop doing this bit. It never pays off.
The bit was good when he was like, I have a perfect memory. And he was like, then tell me that when I stop telling you to not call me master. He could have said it one other time in the story and it would have worked for me. Like,
Actually, that's true. That one line, I was like, I guess they're doing a different thing than just the same catchphrase.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, the amount of times that it's in there, which is like, I would say for a book that is 180 pages in the first edition, that joke probably happens, and it's not really a joke, right? Just the bit probably happens, I would say 24 times.
Oh,
I didn't
the
count.
amount of genuine
search this.
wasted pages I feel in this book is outrageous. Like, and I think it's across all of these, but we've had this problem in previous books as well, where it feels like we spend a lot of time doing things that truly don't matter, which is fine because it's flushing out the world. But I then look at 180 pages and think, this is so short. Like, if you're gonna flourish and give us stuff, make it 200 pages.
This is
then.
a 3-hour read. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
this is a quick read.
It's like almost as long as watching a movie.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm like, I would have loved more plot to happen for this, because honestly, the plot of this and the previous book it breezes. There's only they go.
It's all kind of stuff I want to know more about too. It's like kind of
happens
cool.
20 times.
20. Don't call me master.
Yeah.
Wow, 20. I was
Crazy.
over guessing a little bit. Wow.
Okay, that's across the 3 books, that exact quote, because now that I have
Oh, you have the whole.
Now that I'm using the Kindle app on an iPad instead of a Kindle, it feels like I have
Like a
the
database.
Matrix.
Yeah.
I'm like, it makes these notes taking like it's so.
Not an ad, but
I love the Kindle.
if you want to
to
send me an
read
iPad,
on,
I'll take one.
And it was cool to be able to save shit, but
Yeah.
this is so much better.
yeah, get a book if you're not going to use an iPad. But if you want to send me an iPad, this is not an ad right now, but it could be. I'm just saying.
This, by the way, yeah, I don't like Apple, but I love this thing. And
He just
talking
likes-
about
he likes
New
Apple.
Game Plus, I like read this book like 1.5 times because of the like search feature. I was like reading up like every character. I was like all the different stuff, and I just kept like reading it again. Very cool. Again, not an ad for it, but it's a cool feature.
Davis is a guy who loves a database. I'll tell you that. Like he loves hot access to quick data. He
Yeah.
loves that. Answers is what this guy loves.
hot access.
Some other
to quick
just-
data.
That's what he loves.
Little dirty sounding.
Hot access to
I like
great
hot
data.
access to quick data.
That's like Jackie Wells type shit right there.
Some other just general stuff. They're still using automata to describe droids in this.
Sure.
We learned that a class 2 droid is a actual specific like classes of droids. I think this might be
It's like a driver's license kind of.
the first crap.
Or maybe more like what's the replicants?
It's
They have like different levels of replication.
they're orders of intelligence. I just
Yeah, like some droids are like all they do is work at the factory, and some droids are like 3PO, and they're all classified. Yeah.
Like you telling me Vuffi Raa and that dude that burns people's
Class
feet in
2
Jabba's
means that
palace are the
he's-
same thing? No way.
I had
no, different. They're
That's like
different
a slug. That's like a slug and a dog. Come on.
But that's the classification.
Okay, yeah, he was a Class 2 droid with intellectual and emotional capacities roughly equaling those of organic sapients, and an uncorrected tendency in his programming to let his mind wander and to mix his metaphors. Oh, it was a price he paid for being one of the rare machines abroad with an imagination. But classifications of droid,
That's like some Asimov shit.
yeah. And then also they kind of explain why there's so much hate for droids, and it is because they like steal jobs, seen as that kind of thing.
It's AI. Yeah, it's literally AI.
Well, I was like, what the fuck? Why is everybody so... Like, is this all just because droids aren't allowed here in the bar and that everybody was like, they hate them?
I think it's
the
like
answer
part of the
is that
universe.
it's automation. The weird thing to me is just like, they are so prevalent and have been in the universe for so long that to be prejudiced against them seems weird, because it's like this would be baked into how you exist. Like you have one as an appliance.
I feel like there's always going to be a planet somewhere in the galaxy that is like just seeing its first droid, though. You know what I mean? Like that's such a big amount of people. And like if you think about like fucking what's the like not Tatooine from Jakku?
Yeah.
Like a place like Jakku, like I bet you they didn't get droids right away compared to other.
Also, there's probably societies where
The galaxy over robots were the object of harsh and persistent prejudice. The Oseon was different, however. Cynics pointed out that neither its current inhabitants nor their ancestors were ever likely to have worried much about losing.
That's because
a
they were
job.
filthy rich.
Yeah.
They love them. It's slaves
that
for
kind
them.
Of, That kind of checks out the idea that they're so rich they don't have to compete with a droid for a job, so they just don't care.
That's why bosses love AI. It's because
Yeah.
they just don't have to actually be nice to their employees
So I
anymore.
looked it up really quick just to get the classifications because I was curious. A Class 1 droid is a physical, mathematical, or medical sciences droid. A second class droid is engineering and technical sciences. Third class is social sciences and service functions. Fourth class is security and military functions.
Wait, so this is like an updated version.
This is the Legends version of...
Right, but I'm saying like where we are right here, Class 2 means that it's not like a job. It's like intellectual and emotional capacity.
But that's, I think,
So I'm saying like what we're gonna get to there.
I mean, yeah, like fifth class is menial labor and non-intelligence functions.
Yeah.
So I think they're saying that he was a engineering or technical sciences droid, but he had very high human level functioning.
he has like a weird imagination engine built in or something.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a Class 2 droid, and separate from that, he had
also, yeah,
intellectual...
also
That's
very
what
smart.
that's what I think.
Okay. I thought that was a description of what that meant.
Yeah, I think
mind.
he's like. I mean, it's very obvious that he's like going to be important to this because he's the only thing else in the story.
He's definitely dying by the end of the third
No,
one,
but he's
right?
also
he
the-
has to.
The one thing that really makes it clear what's going to happen in the next book, and I have not Googled this, so I'm just
I
speculating.
couldn't even tell you.
The only two things that are older than everything else in the book is Vuffi Raa and
Gepta.
Rocker Gepta. So it's going to be like his droid or some shit.
And there's even a line he has about the most interesting part about Lando is that droid of his that is like,
What the fuck?
I got a whole bunch of secrets. I'm like, I'm gonna look into that at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be interesting if we start seeing like more of his real form
Yeah,
as like a villain, because I'm sure that has to come up at some point.
it's probably
going to
be the same species.
Yeah, he's like, hello, Lando. There's gonna be a whole thing. Like, yeah, for sure.
I don't know in what way Vuffi Raa resembles the species that made him. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly like what that.
But they
means.
did say he does.
Yeah, exactly, and he believes that he does as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear to me that that's going to be the MacGuffin of the whole fucking thing, right? Next time,
I mean, maybe.
Star Cave, Starfish, right?
This book,
Right.
more than last book, talked from Vuffi Raa's perspective about
whole opening,
how
yeah.
long he's lived.
He also
and
like
other stuff.
they also like set up the mysteries of like what happened when he got turned on, like when that was is kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon. Here we go. Chapter 1. Vuffi Raa, the weird-shaped droid with an imagination, walks down the lane on Oseon 6845 and muses to himself about rich people of all backgrounds, some of the richest of whom call this world home. He thinks on the bizarre circumstances from the last book that led Lando to becoming temporarily rich and starting a shipping business and then folding it again to become a Sabacc-playing scoundrel. And then he thinks about the place of droids in the galaxy and how it's nice here. He's on his way to deliver some bad news. When he finds Lando, it's at a card game down at the very bottom of an extremely large, extremely luxurious underground hotel. He presents the card he was given at the door, walks into the card game, produces the absolutely slagged neutrino hybridizer he's been holding, and confirms Lando's worst fear, which is that the malfunction that happened on their ship was no accident. It was actually the second of two bombs. Yeah, it was actually the second of two bombs that had come their way already, and someone was now, for sure, trying to kill him.
To get Lando.
Yeah.
What's crazy about this is we got a whole Lando story about like Lando got his life crystals or whatever the hell, and then sold those bad boys for a ton of money and said, I'm going to go straight and live my life and become a freight captain and then give that up and become a gambler.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole thing that happened to Lando. And it's like,
But you want to know something?
all right.
Maybe that was all part of someone's evil plan. Just saying. Maybe.
100% for sure. This is Lando's consistently being set up.
Yeah. You know,
Because is this after this where it like flashes back to the?
we can follow it. I don't know exactly.
Well, sorry, never mind. You ignore that. I'm just now trying to make this into a movie in my head and be like, why do they like randomly flash back? I'm like, maybe it's because it's like where he is now and then how we get there.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Well, so
at this point, have they described the Oseon?
that it's like an asteroid.
Just a cool, like, I just want to talk about, like, it's a cool thing.
They haven't
like,
gone all the way into it, but basically the whole system was destroyed, and now it's a bunch of it's like thousands of asteroids.
Either was destroyed or never coalesced. They're not like really sure. It's like a giant asteroid belt that is a like a vague, what do you call it? Like a resort destination for the
It's
ultra
like it's
rich.
like Aspen. It's like it's like
yes,
it's like
yeah.
Aspen,
Yeah,
but
and
it's an
because
asteroid
of the like weird minerals, they have what the titular Flamewind is like this crazy
it's like
flare
dangerous
display that
dangerous
happens
aurora
for,
borealis, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. As we go through it, there's like
Yeah.
direct quotes of what it does, but it's just kind of cool. We don't see this kind of place a lot in Star Wars. Sometimes you'll see asteroids, but that it's like a ton of asteroids. They don't really describe how they do gravity or whatever, but we just assume it's like whatever.
It feels a little half-baked for a Star Wars location, but it's like not an unacceptable.
nice.
If it was
It's
the Han
nice.
Solo
Yeah.
author, we would know exactly how it works, but just assume they figured out how you can breathe there, but they do talk about like that there is different gravity on different ones. The fucking bougie hotel they go to has like a gravity elevator. Instead of you get in it like reads your like mass and then accelerates you down, which is like pretty cool. And it plays into some of the like action scenes later. And then the other weird thing is that everything there is fake.
It's like Palm Springs where they're like working against.
No, but it's like Disneyland where they're like, in the plush cosmopolitan resort, the creatures doing the singing might well be a photosynthetic vegetable attempting to attract pollen carriers, and the foliage it perched in, a soil-rooted animal. The entire system was like that, a rich man's.
Yeah, it's like a whimsically designed.
Yeah, but they're
place.
like, that thing that you think actually could be something else because it's so rich they like make weird shit.
It's like
to just
imagine-
be
it's
It's like
exciting.
Willy Wonka's
It's like,
factory.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Imagineered. That's why it's like, to me, that's what I'm saying about the proto-universe. It's like, this would never be a place in Star Wars like this. Like, this is so much more.
It's like raw.
It's like fantastical, almost like in the realm of like the Phantom Toll Booth or something in some ways.
But there is a lot, like, you can even look at the beginning of Rogue One where they start on an asteroid city. That stuff's cool as hell, and I love the idea, because that's where we see Andor for the first time blast that dude.
Oh, yeah.
And like but like,
That's sick, but that's also like not what this is.
but I'm saying this is the next level of that, where it isn't just an asteroid city built into like a rock. It's like a whole ass place that is sort of like a rich person's playground. And I have to, in my mind, I'm like, that's fine. I imagine if you're space rich, you could come up with the tech to protect yourself and make this beautiful playground for yourself.
100%.
Like, if you're space rich,
It's not really that the idea is not sound. It's that it aesthetically, for me, for some reason, aesthetically doesn't like align with what I believe Star Wars
that's
is
because
like.
they keep giving us desert planets.
Yeah, but it's
broaden
like
your horizon.
just style guide wise, it doesn't feel tonally similar to like the types of things we will see later in Star Wars that are similar to
It's
this.
like a little bit far out. It's like
Yeah.
a little bit like
It's a little wacky. It's like a little Alice in Wonderland, but like not that much.
But that's because I think it's not, again, 180 pages. If he had
Right.
more time
No,
to
exactly.
describe stuff to us of that, I bet he could have nailed the idea of it coming together in a way that makes sense.
Sure, it does make sense. It just for me just doesn't.
It feels more fantasy
It feels,
than sci-fi.
yeah, it just feels a little like unformed in terms of like the Star Wars media machine. There's still, I feel like, a little bit more freedom going on here.
Well, I mean,
creatively.
because
The
in
Marvel,
Empire,
the Marvel,
they go into an asteroid field and
Yeah.
there's rocks flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine like how dangerous that would
He
be.
was like,
And
let's
then
put some buildings on there.
Yeah,
we gotta
yeah.
be rich to do that. Yeah, like let's do it. Yeah, I see it. I like it. I even enjoy it as a setting. I like the idea. It would be a great setting for a video game. As a matter of fact, it's just like super bold and in your face in a way. It just feels so like PC game 1991, like weird, simple idea, like almost like a cartoon episode setting.
That's because it ignores logic.
yeah.
But it's just, I get what you're saying where it's like not as tightly, like think about Cloud City. It's like this beautiful, gorgeous place. It has like a more baked set thing where this feels like a bit too loosey-goosey. It's like Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
But like Star Wars.
Yeah, it really is. It is.
It's the same thing as when we learned, at least in the comic, that the Ugnaughts just live on the surface of a gas giant and have a whole society. Like,
And they're like,
that makes no sense.
The
It doesn't
Ugnaughts
check
news
out.
team is so wild.
yeah, like they do that every once in a while during this time period,
Yeah.
I guess.
But they also, the way they describe the effects of the Flamewind kind of change a little bit from time to time. We're like, it's a beautiful display. Also, you are like high and crazy for whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, also, all this shit happens, so no commerce or anything happens for 3 weeks. Where you're like,
Also, Star Trek: The
can you
Next
imagine
Generation.
like no business for 3?
Dude,
that
talk
just
to
sounds
the off season,
You know,
dude.
I was gonna say, talk to Alaska, bro. Like that's real.
I guess, but these are the richest people in the galaxy, and you're telling me
Sure.
that like they can't communicate with anybody for 3 weeks.
I imagine they would
Have you ever
leave.
met
It's
like
their
a really, really
playgrounds.
rich person? They are control freaks.
Well, if you wanted drugs, you could get them. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it's not impossible to go out there.
Sure.
Chapter 2, Lando is not bothered much by the news that people are trying to kill him. Very next day, back in his hotel, he is thinking about all the crazy series of events that led him and his friend Vuffi here to this moment as he gets ready to go out again. He's playing Sabacc every night. He's winning a bunch of money. He's laughing at himself, though, because as he does this...
they do also give us like full descriptions of Sabacc in this.
Oh, like the rules of the game and stuff. Yeah, it's real. Like it feels like they kept the sort of basic idea from last time of like,
Yeah.
it makes a little bit more sense, and they kind of explained about the changing of the cards and how that could actually be a real game.
Yeah.
That there is an element of like timing to it, but like there is also the fact that like once it's on the table, you can actually like depend on it.
And they call them smart cards.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I feel like smart tech is a more like that became more ubiquitous with the smartphone. But it's interesting that they were like, even in the 80s, they still like anything that was like had a computer and it was considered smart.
And this is like still early 80s, so you're still operating off like late 70s mentality. Like keep in mind, I don't even think the next generation has been on television yet at this time.
In 83, no.
Yeah, like I don't think
No.
like this is like some early days sci-fi shit. The modern idea of what space is like. Star Wars doesn't spend that much time exploring like life in space. Like mostly the Death Star is like a castle, and
That's like what makes it fun is they're like already space is like boring now to us.
but over time, like we have kind of developed a sense of what Star Wars life is like the tone of it as like something that we all agree upon. When we go to Star Wars land, everybody now goes, "Oh, this is like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars."
Yeah, I think it's because they established that aside from a few select places,
Galaxy's Edge. My bad.
Aside from a few select places, most places in Star Wars are kind of backwater. There's, or at least that's what the stories they're telling us are taking place. There's, metropolis cities they exist, but they're not the focus.
They're like a prequels.
yeah,
Or like Cloud
situation.
City. Like Cloud City really is like beautiful, but they spend 1 second on that part of it and the rest of it being like, now you're in the fucking furnace and
Yeah.
you're fighting for your life.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just didn't look into that too far. Like if all you had to work off of for what life is like for an average person in Star Wars, the Mos Eisley Cantina and 5 seconds walking through Cloud City and Jabba's palace, like no wonder everybody thought Star Wars was fucking Tatooine. But yeah, so he's laughing at himself though because while he's getting ready, he's thinking about how he's better at like taking money from rich people than actually being a rich person. And that's like funny to him. He's just like laughing at his situation where he's like getting ready to go dress up and get rich by stealing money from rich people basically at cards. Even though he's not cheating, but he's just kind of like yay for him, bad for them kind of vibes.
This is where you get a lot of the like him waxing about how like honest business is bullshit, where it's like you make money
That's
and
what he's
then
learned.
they like
yeah.
tax you and they tax you again. There's import, you got to do all this shit, and it's like, or he has like a fat wad of cash that required nothing. He just like outthought people, and it's there, and it's not going to disappear in his fucking...
It's just almost like he's like better at getting rich than being rich, which is like...
He said, here is one fat bankroll that wasn't going to evaporate when he wasn't watching it, which is also hilarious because, I don't know if this actually is foreshadowing, he gets this exact amount back in the end anyways, too, so it is like funny that pays off for him.
Plus. Yeah.
But he does get specifically this exact money back, too.
Yeah. Which is... It's bits. I'm telling you, it's all bits. So, case in point, short while later, Lando and Vuffi Raa find themselves in a scrape up in the Falcon. They're dogfighting with like these pilotless pirate drones. There's like another. There's like the pirate mothership is like off to the side.
This was kind of cool because it's like a unique idea. I think this far in or up to this point in Star Wars, the idea of like drone fighters. And you're dead ass right. You're talking about this is like the Guardians thing where it's like a sphere with like other little drones.
That's like literally what they're doing.
Instead of being like like a pinnacle of technology, which that race was, it's like shit.
Lando
it
just
would be shit.
destroys them so quickly.
Yeah, instead of robots, they're like people.
Like, well, and it's funny because Lando is better. Vuffi has been teaching him how to pilot a little better.
He's a dab hand, man. He's a dab hand.
But it is hilarious. Like, all right, you lost to like Lando.
Yeah, bodied. Not good tech.
When you know who it is, then you're like, oh,
yeah.
No wonder.
So it's
you guys got the internet like yesterday.
So there's space pirates. The reason that they're in this situation, case in point, Lando being bad at business, is it's like based on a shortcut that he decided to take through an uncharted nebulosity to shave a few days off their transit time. It didn't go super well, but since Vuffi was piloting, Lando was only on the guns. They were eventually able to blow up the pirate drone mothership with a devious flanking maneuver where he like went up its ass and like blew on some pipes and blew it up, and the whole ship blew up. Yeah. And afterwards, Vuffi Raa made caffeine. Later, Lando smokes a straight up cigar in the cockpit as Vuffi Raa, who pilots the ship by leaving his torso in. Just so you guys can picture this, he like leaves his torso in the seat and then extends all his like tentacles around him like a little mini crew manning the different stations.
It's if you imagine,
it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
If you imagine like all those 90s anime where like a person who was a robot would sit down at a computer and then their fingers would expand to like 50 different things and they start typing away. That's the vibe.
That's exactly what he's doing.
Oh, also, I'm not gonna read the full quote, but during the fight with the drones, they talk about like, that would have been a formidable crew to fight like the average freighter or like a random person, but that it wasn't meant to fight a freighter that is like outgunning. Basically, my takeaway from it was like the Falcon before it even gets to Han is already atypically like geared out.
Yeah.
And I love the pace at which he's kidding it out in these books, which is really fun because it's clear that what's happening is that he's falling in love with the Falcon and like kidding it out with more and more stuff.
It's funny because in the first one, it seemed like they spent all the time talking about how bad he was at being a ship captain, and it was like, oh, they're just making it so that really you could see him not wanting to be a captain. Yeah. But this one is like, and he likes it.
It was all setting him up. It was all setting him up for
shit.
this like 3-book thing.
Is he going to lose it in the next one?
I think he's literally gonna lose it to Han Solo.
The last book ends with him at the table with Han.
Yeah, like I think that's literally
crazy.
And you know what? This Lando squares with Donald Glover's Lando in my mind.
Yeah,
this guy and that guy really operate on a very similar level with his droid.
I was going to say the droid, even though different name, different style droid,
like, kind of relationship,
same relationship though. Yeah,
but weird. Like, definitely he fucked that droid in the movie because it's like his girlfriend, but in this it's just like bros, right?
Yeah, but he loves his ship like he loves that droid.
That's actually, you know what? Here you go.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, that's a real handshake.
Finally earned his respect.
Yeah, that's
also, I imagine him having the mustache in the last one, but I think this is the official beginning of the mustache because they talk about him like he kind of has kept it for the last little bit. He likes it.
He likes that mustache. So the other thing about this is that Lando and Vuffi have a bit where when he needs Vuffi to like be a person and speak to him, he says, "Vuffi Raa, pull yourself together," and then he like pulls all his guys together. It's pretty good. Pretty funny bit. Davis loves the bit. He gave a handshake to L. Neil Smith.
Literally cringed.
His teeth are literally visibly chattering.
I think
right
that
now.
when he does it, they even like explain the bit. Like it's just like, I think because he's an author and he realized that just in this book he started this new thing for Vuffi that he has to like explain why it's funny, but
Puns were invented only in 1982, so this was very fast at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, it was new. It was a whole new thing.
Yeah. So Vuffi Raa points out that he advised against making this particular trip, but Lando's too busy thinking about money lost and congratulating himself for the pull yourself together bit, even though Vuffi's still not laughing about it, doesn't like the bit, kind of like Davis. But what was wrong with Dilanexa 23 is the question. And we find out in chapter 3, where mostly it just turns out that when someone like Lando stops there with a hot-rodded freighter filled with winter jelly, twinklewood, fishing poles, and leather, not only are none of those things valuable to Dilanexa, but there's far too much duty on any of it to help him turn a profit. It's so weird. It's like surreally bad duty for him. He can't, it's like he almost is like, he can't turn a profit anywhere he goes. He also hears there's an intergalactic...
It's weird because a lot of his musings about this are like wonderful libertarian tinged criticisms of like government and regulations and taxes and levies and stuff. But then in the end, they just are like,
just
no,
imaginary.
it's like a guy magically did it all. But the weird thing here was like, he was like, I'm going to go to this place. Like he was so sure that because it was a frontier place, that he was going to like give them what they wanted, but then they don't. And it's not even really a frontier place. It's just
It feels like he got bad intel.
I don't understand, like, but they don't explain
Yeah.
why he got bad intel. It's just it's like very weird.
But it is here to set up that these are the like Chekhov's gun materials that he's going to use for the rest of this book to like solve all his problems.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was something in the beginning that set up. But no, Davis is right. They just kind of...
He's like, the guy says something like, I don't know if you've ever tried this shit here, but like the fish here tastes like shit. This stuff specifically is poison to us. And like, you know, all this stuff. And I just feel like it was clear to me that he brought the wrong, like a, you know.
This is another one. I have so many fucking quotes on this, but like
When I read it the first time, I
is
thought it
another
just
like
made
kind of half-baked place because Dilanexia 23 was a rich and agricultural world whose fields stretched unimaginable distances around its surface, providing foodstuffs, plastics, combustible fuels, everything with an organic base.
And a
its inhabitants,
disgusting amount
fat
of leather.
farmers, and their fatter families had acquired a taste for some of the finer things in life.
Yeah.
I do think like Vuffi says something about not having intel on it or something, but it's like he's treating it like it's a frontier place, and it's a place that's been around for whatever, for many years. The weirdest thing about this being a agricultural superworld is they're like, it has no minerals in the soil. And that's the reason why none of the things that he wants to sell work, because if you have a little bit of jelly, it will make them immediately sick because they're not used to having that many minerals in their food. But it's weird because like mineral-rich soil is like where you want to grow. And so it's weird that like the entire galaxy is like off this mineral-less thing.
Well,
but
maybe
also
they,
they're all rich farmers because they provide all this stuff. I don't know. It was like a weird, maybe I just missed the quote where he got the bad intel or something. But it's
I
just
don't
like
know.
such a swing and a miss.
I don't know if it's like necessarily like, oh, I got this bad intel, but I just feel like when I first read the book, it just felt like it was just a bunch of like examples of him being like just fucking stupid and shitty at business.
I think if you don't look at it like that, you're right. It's exactly that. Where it's like he tried to do a thing. He tried to cut the corners, didn't work. Brought the thing, and it sucks, and he lost it all.
Felt like it felt like he got the intel from when they were like settling the planet, and then
I thought
like,
the assumption
it grew into a civilization since then or something.
I thought the assumption was when he was saying minerals, he meant like ores, not the basic minerals that plants need to survive.
No,
but no,
too many.
You're right. He says minerals.
Too many trace minerals for a 4th generation colonist. We got to watch what we eat, us Dilanexians. That's a fact. Also, the guy calls him Mac all the time.
It could just be that they just eat like a specific thing and they make,
or maybe
the
it's
galaxy's
a space
bread.
plant that we don't know.
It is like trace minerals in their food. They like talk about their digestive.
What I'm saying
and like
is-
you can't like to them the jam he brings, which is like a delicacy, is like poison.
I'm just saying like maybe like their actual industry is to make food that they can't eat, and they like, you know, for all we know, they make it all themselves. Like I don't know. It's just the point is that
Well, they do say foodstuffs and then plastics and combustible fuels.
right, and leather, shitloads of leather.
Yeah, the other thing was like, do you guys want leather? And it's like, Mac,
Yeah.
all we got are like
We just it's cows. It's cows. Like look at this awning. It's cow. Look at this car. It's made of cows. Look at this glider. It's made of cows. So while
like
he's
a cup of bovine.
yeah, that's you know you're laughing, but you know what? Look up what Bovril is, and you're gonna lose your mind. And the entire country.
I'm imagining it's just like beef stock.
the entire it's like beef stock, but it's served as a beverage.
I'll tell you what though, if you've done like any kind of stock in just a mug and it's
And
hot.
drink it?
And
Look,
it's the
delicious.
morning.
you can't convince me not to eat. Like I'm on the team of Bovril. I'm just saying, like, if you didn't think there's a like very popularly accepted beef substitute for coffee that exists, it's called Bovril.
You think they got it from Star Wars?
I think they did. I think they straight
Yes,
up
100%.
You can't convince me.
He also hears when he's there that there's an intergalactic message for him, and it's like to reject the message costs more than it costs to accept the message. So he takes it.
This is like a comedy bit that's a little too
But it's
set
not-
up
but
where
it
it's
turns
like,
out it's not a
oh,
comedy
it's
bit.
12. And he's like, 12? Well, I'm going to spend time thinking about how cheap that is for a message. Okay, I'll take it. And they're like, 12,000 credits. And
Yeah.
He's like, oh, screw that. He's like, well, it's 20,000
Yeah.
to not.
But it's actually, that's not real. That's actually, in the end, that was all just everyone that he ever saw fucking with him.
It could have been.
Yeah, it literally.
I don't know that guy was fucking, like, that could have been those rules based on that planet. They don't get so specific
I mean,
besides him being
admittedly-
like, everything has gone my...
Now that we know there's straight up just a shapeshifter,
Fucking up his life.
it could be like in Baldur's Gate 3 and What's-Her-Face just keeps showing up as different
it literally
characters.
could be like,
He could be all of
it
them
could
for all we
be,
know.
what's his name from Yakuza, just popping out of the trash and shit.
just causing trouble.
Dude, with, like, Roker Gepta, like...
He's great.
At first, I was like, what the fuck? And then I kind of got down with the idea of like, he's like an immortal person who just can do whatever he wants. So a random nobody like beating him, like I was like, this is so weird. And then like, I was like playing WoW or something, and like I got killed by like a random person. That
And then you
wasn't
hunted
good.
that man down.
And I like, I like smote his ruin across the mountainside because I'm way overgeared. And like, I was like, that like made me like, oh yeah, like a person that you think is nobody, like beating you one time, and you're like, everything that I have will go to like, and you go, it's so elaborate.
Don't tell
he
that
could just
to a-
have him killed at any point, but he has to like,
He wants to hurt him.
it's like aha, it's like make him jump through a bunch of hoops and then get him. It's so
He's
weird.
full on Bond. Like literally, he gets him, and he's like, I could kill you right now, but instead I will torture you
I'll
for
do
weeks.
Death by chagrin, or like the stupidest name
it's literally-
I'd ever fucking heard.
It's so great.
But I'm on board with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
great because he has the same, like, for being like a guy who's like perfect and never messes up and is like invincible and all that stuff. It's like Doctor Doom. Like if you read the actual like Fantastic Four like comic book versions of Doctor Doom, not that like weird nip tuck one or whatever.
From the movie.
Yeah. Like the vibe is like he is like all-knowing cosmic wizard that can do basically anything, except he's like so desperate. He has like character flaws of just being like a jackass and like a and like obsessed with himself. And
I mean,
just
the
like,
man wears a mask because he's like, I'm so
ugly. And like, yeah, and he names everything after himself, and he's like, "Oh, you are so paltry." And like when Arnold Schwarzenegger makes fun of you for not smoking cigars, you are the man. I am Victor Von Doom. You are a loser.
Yeah.
That's why Baron von Underbite is such a great villain in Venture Brothers.
Dude.
But that idea for a villain as the Darth Vader to Lando is like actually inspired, I think, in a funny way. And like also like if you watched the most recent season of Doctor Who, I'm so sorry because they tried this and it did not work. All right. Amazingly, it's a message from Lob Dolph that is this expensive collect call. He is an administrator of the Oseon who's calling because he heard far and wide of Lando's skill at the game of Sabacc and wants to invite him to play a game. Lando tries selling the crap that he has in his hold at bottom dollar to secure himself a stake, but it turns out that Dylan 23, a planet of all farmers, was much more interested in the crap in his actual septic tank, which finally confirms that any of these motherfuckers in Star Wars ever use the bathroom at any point. This is the first time I've ever heard of shitting or pissing anywhere in Star Wars. Yeah. So hooray, we now know that they have dicks and assholes.
Yeah, I guess like that he's got really good manure.
Yeah, just because he's never emptied his fucking septic tank and he's just gonna spread
this.
But here's the thing though, a little logical issue here, a little plot hole. That's gonna be some mineral rich.
They're all
like
they're all
manure.
done.
So he's gonna poison the whole planet.
So let's go back to my theory about imagination. Let's just say that these farmers don't eat the thing that they make. Let's just say that they terraform their land to be the breadbasket of the galaxy, and they eat like a gel that like comes out of some fucking hole in the ground that they've eaten for 3,000 years because food is nothing to them because they have the most boring diet in the world. Like, I could do that work, and I can like make it still make sense for myself. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, like I can. I'm just saying I can. Lando practices his Sabacc, which is weird to me. I don't know. Like, I guess that's what you're doing when you play any game of cards. Is you're practicing the cards, but he's practicing for his big games of Sabacc.
You want to be fresh.
This is where they talk about the. This is where they talk about the rules.
I also feel like because you do have to like spend a lot of time traveling, like, why wouldn't you just?
No, I know. I just thought it was funny to like say the word practicing for playing cards. It's funny to me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm practicing my Pokemon.
Like, because they don't have as many things, like, he probably would just be doing, like, solitaire or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's just like, but I guess they're like, well, we've only made one card game so far, so I have to just say that he's doing that. But, like, yeah, who are you playing against? Like,
he's just practicing. And
he puts on that weird VR headset.
Yeah, and there's a guy in there.
Yeah, there's a guy in there. They play together. You know.
Yeah. He says, your move.
And the guy does a little dance, like a sexy
little Fortnite
Jefferson
dance.
Starship dance. Yeah.
Fortnite. A little cosmetic dance.
No one's ever going to see a little Fortnite dance, but I did, and I love that.
It was good, yeah. You could hear that it really tickled him.
Yep.
So they're on their way to Oseon. He's practicing. This is where they talk about the rules of Sabacc that are like kind of like, there's like numbers that you want to aim for in your hand. It's like kind of like 21, but with 23. But then like as the numbers change, things are like high tension. So you got to move fast. And it's like also like, if you get a 0, it zeroes out your hand, and then you can get a 2-3, and that makes 23, and that's the idiot's array.
yeah, he explains that a little later when the other people that join on are playing, and they're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And it's like, that's why it's called the idiot's array.
Yeah, I don't know if those rules of Sabacc like still hold. I have no idea the rules of Sabacc. I've never played the game.
I mean, so there is no set rule. It becomes whatever people need.
It's like playing poker.
Like if you were,
But I do believe the idea of it being like, well, isn't it more blackjack? Like that you're trying to get to 23 or closer to.
well,
What I'm saying is like the game of poker has like 50 different
versions of poker.
Yeah.
So like there's the Sabacc game that you can get the physical copy that you can buy. It has different rules from the Sabacc in Star Wars Outlaws. The Outlaws, you can play Sabacc in that game and it's awesome, but in that you're trying to get the lowest number of 2 cards, and you can swap the cards in, and you want to get like 2 2s or 2 1s or whatever, and that's how you win. Or you get a 1 and then maybe a card that's like a like it's like an ace or a joker, like in every card. And if you get 2 of those joker cards, that's the like best winning hand because they can be anything, so you automatically win.
So, okay, so it's like just...
It's like entirely different vibe.
Yeah.
But in a way, still in that weird
I've heard
21 blackjack vibe.
I've heard the phrase idiot's array before.
Same.
So here, you see, this comes under a special rule. Whenever you have the idiot, that's worth 0. Then a 2 of anything and a 3 of anything are considered an automatic 23. Waywo Fibot handed over a few credits, but that's ridiculous. Actually, I have to do it in his voice. They say it's, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
They say he
he's
has
a
a
bird.
high-pitched
He's a bird.
screech.
He's
It
a
doesn't
bird.
make sense. 2 and 3 are 5, not 23. And besides, the addition of a 0, that's why it's called the idiot's array.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that's common to Sabacc across various iterations. That there's
because
something...
it's
The
definitely been
idiot's
said
array
numerous
is like
times.
it's a hand.
basically the royal flush.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of literarily used, like it's the anybody gets Sabacc, but like when you need to like, oh shit, I pulled this out of my
Ace
ass.
in the hole,
it's the
yeah.
idiot's array.
Yeah, and I've heard it a lot, and I know it's from Sabacc, but I don't. In this, I now understand this version of it, but I don't know if, like, for example, that version of Sabacc that you were just talking about has it. But here's
It definitely does. It's just a different thing.
here's my Dilanexia excuse for it. Ready? Sabacc is a game console whose medium is card games. How about that? Each of the cards can change to be anything, right?
I mean, no, the cards are the cards. You just have to swap them out for other cards.
Like maybe Sabacc itself, like, you know, like when you say like, let's smoke hookah, you're just talking about like the thing, right? Like let's play Switch, let's play Sabacc, you know, like maybe you just like boot up
Sabacc is basically like, let's play cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like now, back then, it's a pretty specific.
Right.
Like it's not like you're using a deck of cards. You're using what was originally a tarot deck of Star Wars.
Right.
But they're smart versions, and they have these
But that's
specific...
exactly what I'm saying. Like,
But in the comics, it's different as
Yeah,
well.
like
it's always
every
different.
I
time you
do
hear
think
the
it
story-
changes, but I do think it, like, I don't know that they were like, actually all games are Sabacc, because there is
Right.
other card games they play in other Star Wars.
Oh, that,
Right.
yeah, oh, yeah. That's just me doing the same thing that Zelda fans do when they try to justify the
timeline,
series.
yeah.
They're like, well, it's all different.
yeah, that's exactly
versions
what
of-
I'm saying. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to fill in a weird hole of like, why is there many
Logically,
different ones?
But it's like, what were cards originally made for? Why is there a deck of cards? Because it probably was one game, and then people realized you could do a million things with them.
their cards are fascinating things.
Bridge.
They're fascinating. Like I want to see like an Oscar-winning documentary about like
Where cards, like actual cards,
the
came
deck
from.
of
You could be
cards.
like, there was Sabacc, and then someone's like, don't make him smart, don't make him change. And then they just like, every game is a
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
like house rule permutation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, but that's how poker is too. Like so many of the different games of poker, while still called poker, are other than maybe like some terms and like some basic hand structures are, like maybe the idiot's array of like 0, 2, 3 in this 23 version of the game is like a win because it's 2, 3. And maybe that's why the game is based off the number 23 is because of the idiot's array. But in another game, maybe 0 is the lowest number and 2 and 3 are the next two cards. So that could
yeah,
be
you could even say the reason why he was practicing is because he needed to catch up on that
on the
version of the
Dilanex
game
or whatever. Like, yeah,
Like,
Oseon.
it's just not in the book, but
Yeah.
like you could make that up if
I don't
you
know.
want.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Sabacc is a fun thing because it almost is never the same. It's really interesting. Anyway, he's also Googling info on Oseon, which this is where they talk about the giant asteroid field element, and then they talk about the Flamewind itself, which, like I said, it's a yearly solar flare, and lucky for Lando, it'll be there just when he is, which is actually not luck, that we find out later. And just then, when he's thinking about how lucky he is, yet another bomb goes off while they're in hyperspace, and it turns out a message wasn't the only special delivery he got on Dilanexia 23. And this was now the third bomb from somebody that was trying to kill him. And we're only in Chapter 3. In Chapter 4, we are aboard the decommissioned Imperial cruiser Villainous, still someone in service to the Emperor in some vague way, but filled with reprobates and criminals like Australia, like the penal colony back in the day. Like, is the vibe? I'm getting the vibe that they send criminals to work on the Villainous. I'm not 100% sure about that.
It's weird because I have the quote about it, and it's just sort of like, it's decommissioned and it's old, but it has like, it's still people that are part of the military of all different walks of life and skill competencies, and they like kind of serve their emperor, but not, they're really there to serve him.
It sounds like they have a record. It sounds like they're like ne'er-do-wells. I don't know really exactly what the vibe is. But we don't actually spend that much time on the Villainous, so it's not that big of a deal.
I think it's like trying to get you a vibe. It's just like a weird thing to square away. Like, obviously this is early Star Wars time, but you're like, so there's the Emperor, and knowing who the Emperor is now, he secretly had like an older, even perhaps more powerful guy than
Vader?
him that was like his like subordinate also doing shit with like plans.
That's why I kind of feel like
interesting.
he's like a vampire or something, because he's just kind of like, he doesn't seem that interested in like getting involved with the powers that be. Like his big play was to like take over. Like he was like not interested in working with the Empire in the previous book. He wanted to take over the galaxy.
But he had, even back then, he had like an Imperial cruiser.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like his deal is like, he's like one of these vampires that
quid
like,
pro quo with
we don't really know what the Emperor's like powers are yet, because we're not really at Return of the Jedi, right? We just know that he's the Emperor. So like, or maybe we've just seen Return of the Jedi, right? Like
This is post-return.
yeah, but I don't know where we were at when he was writing this, or like what, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
what I'm saying is like, I think he was trying to just come up with the fastest way to be like, this guy, like the Emperor, he's like cool with the Emperor, but the Emperor, he's not a military guy. So like, what is this?
I promise you,
How does he have agency?
when we're
here?
done here, when we read our last book, I'm 100% going to Wikipedia because
Oh, me
I
too.
promise you there's going to be a full ass explanation of how all this connects. And it's going to be like, this is the thing. Because even there's things in here when they talk about the drug.
Lasai.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that's from Star Wars Galaxies.
Dude, there's all
I
kinds,
remember
there's
that.
all kinds of
so
stuff.
there's
in here.
definitely connectors to things.
I was thinking about the movie Solo a lot while I was reading this book. Like a lot of the stuff that like happens with the droid and like going into the ship, being part of the ship at one point. Like there's just a lot of stuff, and like being like, one day I'm gonna free you, baby. Like
There's definitely some things that feel
It feels like they read this for sure.
Yeah, and maybe it won't come up later, but I have a feeling that, when they talk about droid classifications and things like that, I bet somewhere around here is that damn droid book. I bet this I wonder if he's in that book.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
So there's definitely stuff to look up, but I'm also terrified that I will this is actually what Gepta is, and I'll ruin the entire surprise. So I don't want to do it.
I'm almost afraid to read. I think I remember him in the Star Wars Guide to Characters, Relker Gepta, and I think I remember seeing his form, but I don't think I read that one because he looks so weird, and I just didn't care about him as a character at the time or something like that. But I remember when they said weird star beast with tentacles or whatever he is, bug centipede space thing. I had a flash of something.
He definitely is going to be the reveal.
I've been trying not to do that because I know it's all out there.
This is how I feel about a lot of stuff where I want to know more, but I'm we are gonna read it all, so I kind of don't.
That's what I'm
spoil it.
Yeah.
I do these facts, at the beginning of every episode, and I read through things, but I try not to. I don't ever want to just straight up read the encyclopedia because I'm scared that I'm just gonna spoil the next couple years of what we're gonna do. So I don't know, but yeah, he's really a weird cat, that rocker guy.
But I like it's as a character, like him a lot.
Yeah,
I
big time.
love the mystery of there is straight up a Hydra level threat trying to hunt down Lando, and he's everywhere, and everyone everything is him, and it's all working through him, and he's got I love that. But then I agree with Davis that then just being also he's a sorcerer of Tund is a whole other level that seems unnecessary as
the Tund,
a plot
the
device.
Tund sorcerer thing for me is his previous plan to take over something, and he won, and he got.
Well,
the status.
we have quotes that we can read about it because is he a sorcerer of Tund? Well,
no, I don't think he. You know who he is? You know who he is? Fucking what's his name? Vandal Savage. That's who he is. He's fucking.
Oh,
Vandal
so you're saying that there was a sorcerer of Tund at some point, and
I have quotes. When we go through there, he destroyed them all.
He said
we'll
exactly
talk,
what
but
he
let's
did.
just keep going, and then we'll get to
also-
it.
but he wasn't ever one of them.
No, he was
He
one.
just took over a
He
dude's
pretended
body.
he pretended to be one and took them over.
Right. He was never actually.
He's much older than
Right,
them.
right. Okay.
Okay. Chapter 4. Aboard the decommissioned Imperial cruiser Villainous, still somewhat in service to the Emperor but filled with criminals, we discover it's our old friend Relker Gepta, the sorcerer of Tund, who's behind all the bombing. After crushing the life out of the captain without killing him or whatever he did, using magic like Vader's when he's told...
He torture by chagrin.
Oh, we know he did now, but yeah, we don't know exactly what that is at this point.
He explains, he said...
What I mean is it appears to be magic from his hands at this point.
Oh, yeah, but he's just saying that all he does is people are just thinking of... he gives them anxiety.
Yeah.
He just makes them fixate on all their shortcomings.
The fears
and
that
he
you push down when you got through something tough, he's forcing you to pay back the debt of feeling that fear. And
that's what he says later. Here he just talks about when he's talking to the guy that he's doing it to. He's just making him based in his own shortcomings, and then the guy freaks out, and then they take him away, and he's it doesn't kill them though. He's actually it makes them stronger, and I'm as a person with anxiety, I highly identify with this whole situation.
What's
where you
interesting
get,
about this,
but it's his,
and then
and
you're
it's his choke. It's his choke too, though. You know what I mean? It's
I wish
it's his iconic torture.
I wish at the end when he's Lando, I have you. I wish it didn't. This is so cheesy, but I would have loved this if instead of the fighter showing up and causing the distraction,
he's just not afraid.
If it's literally he's all your failings and all your anxieties, and he's there's nothing.
He's baby, I always win.
Yeah,
I'm Lando Calrissian, motherfucker.
He's I see nothing in you, and he's that's just a fucking Lando.
I'm
that
Lando
would have been
Calrissian,
great.
and these are the Flamewinds of Oseon.
Would have loved that.
Shot him right in the dick.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
That's kind of what I thought was going to happen. To be honest.
Absolutely, I was ready for Lando to be immune to his abilities. I thought that would have been so cool.
So that guy
this so far, Lando is a passenger in both of these books.
Yes.
He does
he's Buddhist. He's
he does
Buddhist.
Stab a bitch,
Yeah.
This particular one. Other than that, he just is sort of absolutely getting his ass dragged around and just goes with it.
Yeah. He only ever kills people when he never backstabs you and kills you. He has to do it every time he does it. When Vader came, is the only reason why he would sell out Han Solo is because otherwise Vader was going to kill him, and he already had a plan to save Han. Right?
Yeah. He also is a guy that likes to make deals, but even in this, he doesn't get to set any fucking terms.
He tries and tries and tries,
He
and
just
everyone's
holds
like,
on.
Yeah, they're like,
And
no,
he-
Lando, you're gonna do this, and he's like,
Okay.
fuck, all right, yeah. But yeah, so the reason that guy gets donked by the chagrin machine is because he tells him that the bomb exploded before it was meant to, and then Gepta feeds a blonde-haired, blue-eyed mouse to his crazy, murderous, spidery pet thing that doesn't pay off, and plans on diverging.
This is the weirdest thing. He has like
a scary animal.
Let's see. He sat beside the chair was a pair of cages, each perhaps half a meter cubed. In the first, he kept his pet. It was scarcely visible in its bed of gray-green muck. Simply 3 stalky black legs thrusting upward crookedly, curving inward with a certain hungry greed energy perhaps only Gepta
I can
could
see it.
The legs were sparsely hairy. I just imagine 3 hooking in like tarantula
Like legs.
appendages.
Big, giant tarantula legs sticking
This
out
is
the ground.
another one of those like first draft theory things where he references his like pet a bunch, and then later he's like, but it died, and it's irrelevant. It does nothing.
It's possible.
You don't even know what happened. It's just.
It's possible that it will like figure in again.
But I don't think it will.
Yeah, but it was just I felt more like Dr. Claw's cat at this point.
Yeah,
like it's just
he,
like
like-
an aesthetic thing to like give you a flavor of his weird evilness.
Yeah, he like feeds it and
Yeah.
he cares about it.
Jabba also feeds a frog to the fucking weird. What does he do? He like feeds.
He eats
He
that
eats the
frog.
frog.
He eats a frog and he like feeds a person to his pet. So I don't know. Like I feel like it was like some kind of. Well, that's what like villains do in like fantasy books is they have like a familiar. Like
It feels like going back to that scene. Now that you mentioned it,
Snoopy.
Yeah.
Am I a villain?
it has the same vibe. A lot of what he's doing has the vibe of him trying to recreate the post Rancor scene where it's like dead, but the dude's like, "Oh, my baby," and it's like a bit.
Yeah.
You're absolutely like thinking about that now.
He's like, and he killed my fucking cat, and this is fucking bullshit, and I'm gonna get his ass back because he killed his pet now too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit. Like, I think like the payoff is that like on top of all this, Lando shot my fucking dog, and now I'm gonna go beat his ass even harder. But like, I don't really.
It's just weird because when he goes off to to become a different person, he talks about leaving his pet with his like crew and hoping they take care of it. And then later when he's like escaping, he's like, and my pet died and he'll pay for that too. But that wasn't even Lando. What are you talking about?
The whole thing blew up.
I thought based on how this was described was he left his pet on the Villainous to go become Bahua Mutda. And then after that fails and he leaves Bahua Mutda's place, he's like, and my pet is dead and I'll get him for that too. But they're not in the same place.
He said that the pet died on 5289 or whatever. Like he said, I remember he said.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He literally says where he died. I don't remember it because I don't have a eidetic memory, but we'll get there. I promise. So he's like the main thing is that he's like, okay, fine. Like I need to. He finds out about the guy. He kills the guy, and he's like, all right, I'm going to go do some stuff, and then I'm going to go back to Oseon. So I'm going to like take a diverging course, and then I'm going to go back. So that's what's happening. And then, meanwhile, there's the militia leader of a destroyed planet called Klin Shanga. And the rest of his band of bloodthirsty, revenge-minded pilots go through space. They're all in different weird Motley Crue fighters, and they're all attached by like cables to this like weird old battleship engine thing that's like powering all their ships because none of these ships are powerful enough on their own to like fly through the deep space stuff. So they like use this ship as kind of like a honeybee hive that they all kind of like control and nurture, like Pikmin carrying something along.
Yeah.
And they seemingly have a man on the inside aboard the Villainous. They seemingly plan to strike against their prey, Roker Gepta, once they finally arrive at Oseon, but it's not very clear what their goal is, and that's very much on purpose.
But they don't even. Do they actually even specifically say Roker is their target?
No, they do
Because he's like.
It's because he's not. But
Yeah.
of course he's not. But I'm just saying
They want you to
You
think
want to
that
assume
because-
that he is. Yeah.
Well, somehow one of his commanders is from. It doesn't. We'll get to that later, but even that doesn't make sense. But another quote from this chapter about the Sorcerers of Tongues was, very few individuals understood how much and how little the Sorcerers of Tund believed in magic. Even fewer were those who lived to pass the knowledge on to others, calling upon Villainous' captain's ugly memories, for example, amplifying them, driving them out, everything else. There was nothing to it, nothing that couldn't be done by anyone given the proper electronics.
Which is exactly what he did.
But then also, there's also, like, he is a being of non...
Well, I think maybe the disconnect there is that the Sorcerers of Tund could be these guys who were sorcerers, air quotes, but just used high technology.
They just pretended
But
to be
this
like
dude-
techno mages. They're like techno mages.
This dude is literally an like eldritch horror being pretending to be these people. So maybe that's why he can do real magic. But he also has like
I only
I
called
don't
this
think he
one. There's
does real
more
magic.
quotes, so I'm just like, this is one where they first talk about this. So I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
cool. We have a
yeah.
quote about like that, like anybody can do it with the proper electronics. Doesn't specifically say that they use electronics
I don't
or
believe
not.
this guy has powers. I don't believe he does. I think that's the
Okay.
whole point of this guy, is that he doesn't have powers, is that he's just a very long-lived, very manipulative shapeshifter.
But
yeah,
let's-
it could be the other way. Yeah,
That's what I
But
think.
let's revisit it. We have so much more information to talk about him. So let's go through all of it, then talk about it.
We're building to something with that guy. So yeah,
I hope-
unlucky for these people, Gepta's learned a few tricks in his centuries of life, and he's listening in on the secret communique between the Wennis guy and Shanga. And but rather than confront him about it, he decides, actually, I'm not going to go do whatever errands I was going to do. I'm going to go straight to Oseon. So he gets to Oseon with great haste. In chapter 5, Lando finds himself on day 4 of a pretty good winning streak of floating Sabacc games, along with the seemingly mediocre Lob Duluf, the extremely tall retired businessman Del Sicer, who will probably come back in the next book, and the beautiful blonde administrator Bossy Voba. This lady is very mean and authoritarian in a lot of ways, and she seems like a good person, but she's no nonsense. And so for her name to be Bossy is a fucking good bit.
The thing about her is she's set up as a perfect foil to Lando. She's diametrically opposed, and they just
To fuck with you. Yeah, to fuck
I'm
with you.
either they'll be yeah, it's like a fake out, or there's not enough time to anything. But I was they're gonna fall in love, or they're gonna do something, or there's gonna be
no.
Yep. Nope.
Never mind.
But yeah, so they are there, and then there's also another alien that looks like a trunk, and Lando can't pronounce his name, so he doesn't remember it and just calls him the trunk guy a bunch of times. And he explains to them that the live crystals of Sharu will be back soon on the market, but that they are Rafi or whatever they are. Rafa.
Or he assumes they will be.
He's like, I think they will be, but they're going to be really expensive.
The crazy thing is no, they won't be. They were only there to suck away their intelligence so they wouldn't get killed by this creature. I know that he keeps thinking they'll be back, but you're they were never designed to be that.
I think
that they did that for people is an accident. So that it keeps being well, they'll be back on the market is I think he just is a dumbass. There's no way they're going to do that.
I think it's
Sure,
cynical.
yeah.
I think it's cynical. I think he's saying that his actual opinion of the situation is that there's no way even they will not just resort to selling a thing that they have that's a benefit. He wins again at cards. He wonders whether he should maybe start losing a little at cards because people have been trying to kill him, and he wonders if it's because how good he is at cards. So he's I don't know, should I lose a few so that people like me still before I win at the end? I don't know what I'm doing here.
I love the stuff where the action talks about him and his gambling stuff is actually fascinating.
He
and yet, that he's
developed so well, yeah.
because people are and the interesting thing, I don't know if it was meant to be dichotomous, but they talk about how superstitious Roker, not just the Sorcerer's a ton, but Roker himself is, and then Lando's no, there's no such thing as a winning streak. I don't believe in any of this stuff. He's very pragmatic about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he only cheats to lose hands. He talks
Yeah.
about it's
He's good enough
he
at the game
cheats
that he
to
throws,
give this guy a win to make him a little happier.
keep him at the table till he goes all in. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole vibe. Later aboard the Falcon, while Googling stuff again, making extra sure there were no more bombs on the hull to explode in hyperspace, there's an explosion on the hull that almost kills them, and they limp down to the surface for more repairs, and the next stop in their floating Sabacc game, so just more shit, more bungled assassination attempts. At the game, Lando wonders if it isn't his good luck that's causing someone to want him dead, but luckily for him, I guess, everyone else at the table, including the trunk alien, win a hand, and the tension abates. Then a small droid comes in and lets Lob know the Millennium Falcon's on fire. It was going good for a second, and now it's not. Chapter 6, the good news is that when Lando goes to check out the Falcon, Vuffi's still there, everything's good, there's no damage. However, the bad news is that as he heads back to the game, he gets jumped by an unknown assailant at the hatch and blows him away the sting beam to stop him from clobbering him with a metal pipe. He decides to reach out to Lob Duluf now that he's got a dead body on his hands because he doesn't want to get caught with a dead body, though he considered just hiding it somewhere in a box and taking off, which would have solved his whole problem. In the aftermath, though, Lando finds himself alone in a very nice solitary confinement apartment with all his clothes, gear, and money confiscated, but with
Wait a second. All of this stuff was predicated on the reveal is like everything has happened according to my plans. I manipulated all these events.
Yeah.
Are they saying that these people that are not even trying to actually kill Lando, he manipulated
Yes,
them?
100%.
in
Yes.
so that he would need to be on the run?
Yes.
Yes. That's the whole
They
point.
drove Lando to him. Yeah.
That's the whole point of this. Yeah.
The whole plot is like a one big sting operation, but against Lando.
The whole point is that this guy
Where
Roker gets
no
to,
one knows it. Because
Yes.
Lob Dolov thinks he's fucking taken out a rival. These guys think they're...
Lob Dolov thinks he's covering his ass because the dude knows he's on drugs.
Yeah.
Well, they're both on the same drugs, it's revealed, but it's like also... It sounds like everybody just
what
wants...
the hell's their name?
Waywa says,
Fibot
Waywa says
Mudta.
everything. Waywa tells the whole situation at the end.
Yeah, like the big reveal is like, yes, literally the entire book is a setup against Lando.
It's just, how did he get... I know that he was listening in on those people that were trying to get... I guess because they didn't tell us enough information, they wanted us to think they were after Roker, but
Yeah,
like really
but they're
it's
not.
like,
Yeah.
you're after Lando, I'll just tell them where you are.
Yeah, exactly. In the aftermath, Vuffi Raa. In the aftermath, Lando finds himself alone in a very nice solitary confinement apartment with all his clothes, gear, and money confiscated. And we now know that this is because this guy understands that this is manipulation and is like trying to like fuck up Roker Gepta's situation. And like he's like thinking that he like likes Lando's spirit, which you can tell from the way they talk to each other. So that might be why he's in like the nicest jail cell ever. And his injuries.
White collar prison.
It has like music playing that Lando does not like, but it would be nice if there was music playing. He gets like the best food he's ever had in jail. He says they healed his injuries. Bossy Voba had him placed there while things went down. And suddenly a flash and red, blue, yellow, and green, because it's time for the Flamewind to begin. And they do not end until the end of this book, 11 chapters later. Chapter 7, Bossy Voba, who's actually mostly like a cop. They call her like an administrator.
She's a peacekeeper.
Yeah, they call her an administrator at the card game, but she's actually like just basically like a police officer. For her part, was quite bummed about the whole thing since the Flamewind is her favorite part of living in the Oseon, which she considers a shit place. And we learn that while beautiful, it essentially puts the Oseon on travel and communication lockdown for 3 weeks. It doesn't help that her impression of Lando is based on the fact that he gets money in dishonest ways and she's a cop, but she calms herself by imagining all the ways they like sell his money and get like money for like liquidating his assets. And she correctly values the droid higher than anything else that Lando owns, which is an interesting thing. And speaking of which,
There's also some fun commentary on the police.
what?
Just in his description of her, like he just like makes an aside about that cops are really just there to like make things convenient for rich people.
They exist to protect property. Speaking of which, Vuffi Raa is slapped with a restraining bolt, which he thinks is childish, and left aboard the Falcon while everything gets sorted out. And while confined there, he immediately breaks out of the restraining bolt. He thinks about his relationship with Lando, how much he values their friendship, and then he thinks of his first memory that he ever had from centuries ago of awakening in the hold of a freighter that was attacked by pirates, and which, ironically, obscured his knowledge of his origins in the first place. Because in getting attacked, he was activated by like some sort of like self-preservation protocol in his programming, and because he's basically like a preemie or whatever, so like parts of his memory banks got erased from his previous like centuries of experience.
Book 3 reveal.
Like if it doesn't, I'm gonna be insane.
They really tease so much in this book.
It's very clear though. I mean, like I feel like it's Roker Gepta and Vuffi Raa big time. Floating in the low-gravity center of an asteroid in his secret many-legged, thousands-year-old form, Roker Gepta meditates on his hatred for Lando, who stymied him at every turn, and his history of deceiving the sorcerer of Tund into teaching him all their knowledge before, unbeknownst to anyone, personally reducing their planet to a sterile ball. So that's what he did. He learned all their secrets and kept them a secret because they were mysterious. Like the whole point of the sorcerers of Tund was that they were secretly not mages.
Yeah, they were using force powers.
But they weren't.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were like, we can do that too. And they remained an enigma forever because this guy killed them and made it unclear whether they exist or not.
Yeah,
and so
I guess they let him in because they had mistaken him for a young apprentice. But they said that already he had been, those thousands of years ago, far older than the most ancient of the sorcerers.
Yeah. So he was just there to like be a cuckoo bird and like find
And
a
because
place.
he can shapeshift, he could be that young guy who's
He's like trying to find a place to chill for a couple hundred years, and he's like, I'll be this role. He like was a cuckoo bird and adapted their mystique to his own ends and is now this like fake Vader. Like
the galaxy still believes that somewhere the hidden planet Tund was the home of the mysterious order. Only Gepta knew it was a sterile ball. Not so much as a tiny finger bone was left. The thought The memory of what he had done on that final day filled him with delight and satisfaction.
Really interesting, right? Like, I want to know what it is.
Oh, and then there's a quote from him. He's like about Lando. He said, "Who now owned the ancient enigmatic robot that seemed the key to yet another sheaf of tantalizing unanswered questions and limitless power?" Question mark.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know, but he knows something's
He
fucking
probably
there.
recognizes something about that robot. Up in the Flamewind, Klin Shanga mourns the death of his friend Colonel Kinau, who we learn was only ever there to grab Lando as a stepping stone to ostensibly Gepta, but he doesn't say who his target is, and was only shot because the cops wouldn't let him take his weapons onto the surface. So he feels like that guy that tried to kill Lando didn't have to die because he brought a gun to kill him with, but then he didn't get to use it.
Yeah.
Lob Dulif doesn't really care about the Flamewind because he's colorblind, which is hilarious. But he does grow flowers and enjoys the smell of flowers, so go figure. He's torn between his honest duties and those he performs in private for the few, and decides to pick up the phone, call for Lando, and send him to what he says is going to be certain death.
And then there's another quote about Gepta that this is the body thing. So, slowly, with elaborate precision, the sorcerer everted his body, turned inside out on the axis of his digestive system as a form of meditative relaxation, and resumed a true appearance only slightly less disgusting than the one he had given a few seconds before. No human being had ever seen him thus, none ever would, and lived to relate the horror of it. He relaxed his numberless alien appendages, stretched them, relaxed, then spun about himself the appearance of the gray-swathed, presumably humanoid sorcerer the world knew. Summoning a power of which the universe was equally ignorant, he drifted slowly, deliberately toward the floor of the cavern. There was work to do, and he must be about it. And yes, he must feed his pet. Guy loves his pet. So
Yeah.
It does sound like the sorcerers. He was like, what are these guys? Yeah. Oh, it's all tech. But he does actually have power.
I don't see that.
I see him. He has the power to shapeshift.
He like spun an appearance, and they said, summoning a power of which the universe was equally ignorant, he slowly drifted towards the floor. That's pretty specific that he has like a mysterious
So
power.
the power that the universe is ignorant to is the powers of the Sorcerer of Tons. He, I believe, is a creature that biologically, not magically, I think biologically, I think he's like a big spider creature. And he says he spins himself because I think you're supposed to be thinking of spiders with this guy. And he spins himself like a new look on the inside, and then he like flips it out on the outside. I think that's his deal.
He's like you remember you put the little coins in, you get those little things that pop up out of the ground when you invert them?
100%.
He's that.
I think he is 100% not magical. That's my take. I'm not going to say, because like, I think you could take both things away from the text. Genuinely. I genuinely think
it could be one or a complete reverse where they were magical and he wasn't. He infiltrated, killed them, and he uses their techniques, but he uses, like, there's ways to do it.
It could
Honestly,
be.
It doesn't matter.
He routinely talks about how tech is behind the sorcerer's power, and this whole paragraph is, well, half of it is like his realness nobody has seen, and then he uses a power that no one knows about. So that feels still technically it could be either, but I'm like
the character.
I
to
think
me,
that all this stuff after is like you guys have no fucking clue.
The character to me who pretends to be a wizard who doesn't have any powers but actually has powers is like kind of makes sense, but a character who pretends to be a wizard but actually doesn't have any powers is like a very clear cut and like simple, straightforward character that makes more literary sense to me. That's why I think it. You know what I mean? Like it's so much more clear
I get it.
of a like whole like you're like you could see his idea like what the writer was doing. He's like, oh, he's like a crazy wizard, but actually he's like Wile E. Coyote because he doesn't actually have powers. But he can.
But we're also
get it.
learning more. So in the first book, we had many conversations about the fact that like he's a weird character, right? And now we're seeing that he's not just weird. He's not a humanoid at all.
Definitely
he's
not.
something. So I would imagine in the third book we're gonna get another layer to this that changes how we
and
feel.
like I'm saying, like I don't think I'm like even disagreeing. Like I don't think there's a true answer yet from the text that
he's
we've
a
read.
mystery. Yeah.
I don't think that there's like a true answer to this yet. Like obviously, I think we're gonna get one. But Chapter 8, Lob Dulif. Lando is joined. They're in the office of Lob Dulif. Lando is joined by Bossy Voba and the Big Bird-esque, bright yellow and orange and green avian narcotics officer Wewa Phibot, who talks like Davis talked earlier. Dulif explains that Bwahaha Mutta, who he says sounds like laughing at your mom, is a hilarious joke. Possibly the richest person in the entire galaxy is about to be betrayed by his business partners and rivals, and that this would be much more easily done if he was taken out of the picture permanently. Lando is sentenced to death for bringing a weapon to the Oseon system, his sting beam, which he shoots that guy with. But as an alternative, he's been offered the chance to take 2 cops over to Muta's compound on Oseon 5792 in the guise of a Lasai dealer, because Muta loves Lasai. Lasai is an illegal drug with no real downside, besides allegedly making you very cold and calculating. Muta is addicted to it and always has shipments of it delivered during Flamewind. If Lando can bring Muta the drug and the cops can catch him in the act, Muta goes down, the rich people pulling lob strings get what they want, and Lando gets off scot-free with his winnings if he pulls it off. He can walk right off the planet and like they'll find their own way back.
What?
And also he called the whole thing about
Sure.
it being like a play for Lando to manipulate him into doing this job.
It's such a great. I genuinely did not know that Star Wars Galaxies pulled that from this book.
The
Lasai it's a thing. It's like a drug. It isn't. It was cool because it wasn't spice. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you like don't have to sleep, and it sounds like Super Coke, where you're like
Sure.
it enhances your brain, but then they're also like it turns you into an emotionless, amoral, calculating machine. But then a couple times they talk about how like
It's probably not true.
How like a lot of times governments. I thought it was more of him just like the author giving thoughts on how governments vilify substances or things to certain ends. Then we find out later Lob Dolph is also addicted to it, but he's like, I only wish it could make me not feel bad because I feel guilty for my like buddy fucking he actually likes Lando.
Yeah.
But then later it does make Bahua Mutta not care.
Well, we don't know.
And by proxy almost makes Roker, who's pretending to be him, not care. It's like so weird. Again, there's like it does do this and it doesn't do this.
We don't know. We just don't know. Like, it could be that the rumor comes from the fact that this guy's a notorious Lasai addict and he's bored.
I mean, but I do like the idea that there is a character who's like, yeah, I'm aware of what that drug is supposed to do, and I take it trying to get it to do that to me, and it just does not work.
Right.
I think it's like a really cool character to have in the
tragic.
story.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah.
Lando and Vuffi attach a perch to the inside of the Falcon for Wewa because he loves being perched, even though he literally can't fly. He's just bird themed. And Lando thinks about how birth rates go up because of the Flamewind's 3-week lockdown, because they're all locked down, so they all fuck down. The mysterious first officer of the Villainous, who is secretly working for Shenga again, meets a mysterious creature with yellow feathers below the planet, warning him that Dolph found a way around their plan. They part ways, and the first officer heads off to yet another secret meeting. This is a flashback. As everybody gets ready to fly, Lando and Wewa each private. That's Wewa getting instructions from the first officer on the Villainous.
Okay.
Because the first officer on the Villainous doesn't actually work for Shenga like Shenga thinks. The first officer on the Villainous is actually a plant from Roker Gepta, who is actually playing both parts.
Yes.
Does that guy know that he's being played by Roker?
Which guy?
The Villainous.
The Villainous
second
guy
commander.
is not being played by Roker. He is working for Roker.
Right, but
Like directly.
Does
That
he-
is this.
Oh,
real,
he's
that is,
like, I will do what you're saying. Like,
I
he
will be
knows
both
that
of
he's-
these. I will be the inside man over here, and I will be this guy for this guy.
Oh,
That's why he's like,
When
I gotta go
I-
do something else right now after this.
I think that's why I was so confused. I thought they were actually trying to do a weird coup on Roker. I did not, and I felt
Lob
like,
Dolph absolutely was.
yes, I didn't realize that the guy on the Villainous also, because they wanted you to think that. They red herringed it a little bit. I just didn't.
The
put
guy on the
together
Villainous is bringing people to. Yeah, you get it.
Okay.
Yeah, you get it.
Now, that was the missing connection because I also was like, so these fucking guys from that planet are just also fucking here at the same time, but it's like,
Nope. Yeah.
no, they technically, okay, I see.
Yeah. So that's when he warns them that they put Bossy on there, but they don't say that. They don't say that it's
Bossy
that.
Voba's on the job.
Yeah, they part ways. The first officer heads off to start another secret meeting, which is why I think he's talking to Villainous or Shenga at that point. As everybody gets ready to fly, Lando and Wewa each privately consider their weapons. Lando insisted on his sting beam as protection, and Wewa has something half the size and 6 times as powerful stuck under his wing. I wonder when that's ever going to pay off. Bossy, meanwhile, speaking of which,
But it doesn't?
It totally does. Bossy,
Yeah.
meanwhile, was it's like the most shocking moment in the entire story. Bossy,
the
meanwhile, was
twist at the end.
Bossy, meanwhile, was watching.
I
something.
thought he just used a regular.
No, it's that. It's a super.
That's why they set it up, because it's so shocking that that's what they use it for. Because the whole time he's like, it's more powerful than a ship's gun, and that's why it like just. Anyway, we're gonna get there. Bossy, meanwhile, watching some kind of weird Star Wars Donner Party movie on what will eventually be Han Solo's Dejeric table, where they start eating each other after a crash. Lobdolov watches from a view screen as Lando and Vuffi complete their last checks and confirm the Dead Reckoning system is in place, which if you don't know what that is, that's like a stupid version of a guided navigation. It's like a still going dumb version of a guided navigation in sort of layman's terms. You can correct me if you're like a naval officer or whatever, feel free to. But it's something like that in my
Mission Impossible movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great half movie that came out. Is there a second one?
Yeah, it's coming soon.
Shout outs Palm Clementif. He does a bump of Lasai while he watches and thinks about how it doesn't really make you cold and emotionless after all, or at least not for him. As the group sets off, Shenga's pirates see the signal they were looking for, get ready for action. We are now over halfway through the book. As the Falcon soars through the Flamewind, everyone on board is like feeling it in like really weird ways, but Vuffi is especially feeling it because Vuffi has lots of extra senses and only the mental capacity of a human. So he's like fucking up. Lando barfs in the cockpit.
It is crazy, like, that they like talked about all the like wildness of it earlier, and they were like, it was like every color of the human spectrum and well beyond. And I guess it was like all teasing to like, and guess what? When you have all those things, you can get super fucked up.
You get fucked up. And it's funny because this scene is really cool, actually. This was like, in terms of like the wacky psychedelic writing that happens in this book. This is like the pink elephants from Dumbo or some shit happening right here. There's like a color-coded, like sort of magical real thing that happens. Lando barfs in the cockpit it's like there's like a barf and possibly piss and shit tube in the cockpit that I didn't know about in the Millennium Falcon. He's like, good thing that works. So that's how Han Solo takes a shit, because they always talk about that and stuff. Nobody ever shows Han Solo taking a shit.
Whoa, you're telling me that in your head, it isn't like there's a room that he walks into and then takes a dump. You're saying there's a tube.
Dude,
and Han Solo
I'm not saying
walks over that tube.
I'm not saying that. That's what
they
El Neil
just shit themselves and then they use their wands to cast
No,
magic.
I'm not saying that.
Yes.
I'm saying El Neil Smith in Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon says
This is like when I read my first Star Trek manual and there's just a toilet on the bridge. Yeah. And I was like, what? And there's just, they get up from their station, walk over. Like,
and they're
what?
like, Captain, I had a thought.
I couldn't believe it. It's crazy.
But it makes sense.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you? Like, we don't think about that stuff in this, but like,
what does it say? Do you have the quote?
No, I didn't get a quote on that one.
It's called like the cockpit like sanitation tube or something that he barfs into.
What I thought that was like
a trash can.
People get sick, so you can do it.
I thought it was
sealed off.
Yes.
You can go to. I didn't really think about it as shitting as much as like vomiting because I'm motion sick. So that's what I think.
Well,
about.
okay, think about it this way: if you're an airplane pilot in like a jet, right? Like, and let's say you have to like go to the bathroom. Like, what do? You just piss.
You get up and you walk over to the thing, and a flight attendant blocks the path.
No,
so that you can
on a fighter jet.
Oh, on a fighter jet?
You
wear a
that
diaper.
You go beforehand. You're not in a fighter jet for that long.
Don't you piss in a little hole? Don't you have a little tube if you got to piss?
I thought
or barf.
Honest to God, I thought they had like
if you barf in your helmet, that's no buenos, right?
We have to look this up.
What do you do when you barf in an airplane in a fighter jet?
Are you on it? Okay, he'll look it up.
Okay. So this is this like color coded sequence that I thought was really cool. Everything turns blue outside, and it's like almost like the colors of the Flamewind start to like affect people's emotions, which is like.
Dude, in my head, I imagined the like tunnel scene from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, that's like exactly the vibe. Everything turns blue outside. Lando gets sad, thought about his dead childhood dog, which is crazy. Vuffi literally turns off his feelings so he can get through the Flamewind unscathed, but he doesn't really do that. When it turns green, Bossy can see through herself to her internal organs, but it's all green.
This is so trippy.
Yeah, when everything turns yellow, Vuffi Raa gets obsessed that he looks like he's covered in gold and like wants to get gold and starts tripping out and breaking shit so much that Lando takes all his arms off and sticks him in a glove box in the cockpit that's like steel lined.
It's like cigar box.
It's like his cigar safe in the cockpit, which also has a toilet in it. A second toilet. It's like a built-in safe/toilet.
You never know when you're going to need to use that toilet, okay?
Yeah. And when he puts him in there, he crushes his cigars, which is a bad sacrifice for Lando. And that is important.
And we won't hear about it for the rest of the fucking book.
Oh, yes, we will.
I'm saying we will hear about it.
Yes. In the orange light, Wewa imagines he flew home and walks past he walks past his crawling, rustling magenta lawn into his house, and that's like he's flying. And in the red light, Lando notices something ahead of them in space that looks like a half-mile wide spider, and Shenga's men are here to play. Do we have any word on the fighter jet toilet?
Yeah. So the way it works is because a lot of people, I wanted to make sure I knew both versions. So in fighters, what you do, one is they have a piddle pack, which is a piddle pack.
You can't call it that. That's
what it's called.
thing.
And it's
I'm gonna give it a little handshake.
it's like a tan bag filled with these little beads, and then you pee into it. So you literally like stick your dick in this bag and pee, basically.
Yep.
And the beads turn into gel when it touches the urine, so it doesn't spill everywhere.
That's great.
And so that's what they do for that. Going number 2, not done. You either they say that they manage flights based on when you go to the bathroom, so you don't have to go to the. But if you do, diaper. You're just wearing a diaper.
Just shit your pants.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what if you have to barf?
Then probably piddle pack.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so I believe that what's going on here is like if Han has to piss or shit, but he also has to fly the Millennium Falcon. He has a little.
I know. I can understand the dick in tube. It's just like if you're using a bottle or whatever on the like. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's still very weird to think he just has a tube. He like whips it out. He's like, hold on. I
Think
need
about
to
how
do
many
this.
times Chewie's seen his dick, dude.
That's what I'm saying. There's a,
and
a lot of
he's probably
questions.
seen at least as much as anyone can see Chewie's dick. All right.
Considering there's a bedroom in the Falcon.
Is there?
Yeah,
It's
dude.
more like a bed
/closet. There's
the
definitely a
living
bathroom.
room.
There's definitely a bathroom.
I've never seen it. I'm just saying.
We got to get that cross section of the book.
Oh, the big DK book. Yeah, I'm sure I have that somewhere. I think I bought that like when I was like 15 years old or something. Vuffi's drug haze has caused him to destroy the intercom equipment. So all by himself in the cockpit, Lando has to handle a couple very well-trained fighters, or maybe they are, or maybe they aren't, depending on how good he is at flying.
This is where I'm like, dude, he's solo.
Just like Han Solo.
Yeah, maybe stop thinking.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, shit.
You're like, no, but then you realize also that's why he's called Han Solo.
Yeah.
I remember it now. I looked up a schematic, and I remember what they're called. They're called refreshers in Star Wars.
Oh, that's right.
And they've existed forever.
But we don't know what they do in there. It's like Pokemon having babies. Like,
Yeah, I guess you're right.
what
yeah.
happens?
What's going on there?
Never like Han Solo's never like, I gotta take a shit the size of a Rancor. Anyway,
I gotta go freshen up
the older I get,
my butthole.
the older I get, because now I've been doing this Han Solo impression for like 10 years, right? The more it's starting to sound like an actual good,
Modern Harrison Ford.
It's starting to sound like an actual good impression of Harrison Ford. Like I was listening
Starting
to,
to.
I was playing the first bit of Dial of Destiny, or whatever it's
And you were
called.
just
Circle.
doing- you were just
What is it
doing-
called? The Great Circle.
Yeah.
No, and I was like, this doesn't sound that much better. Like Troy Baker's impression of Indiana Jones is not miles different than my impression of Indiana Jones.
There's moments while playing, it
He's
genuinely
definitely-
sounded like Harrison Ford.
He's definitely a real voice actor and like better at like putting on a voice than I am in general. Like he's just better at it. But like what he's aiming for, what he says an impression of Harrison Ford is, I think I'm trying to do the same thing. Which is basically just
trying, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like you guys are like, that's not even what he sounds like. I'm like, this is like when he's talking, he's like, what are you talking about? That's exactly right. Like that's what that's what he's doing. That's it. That's Han Solo.
I mean,
You speak with the same like affectation or whatever, but it just doesn't sound
doesn't sound-
exactly.
Yeah,
like
because I have the vocal cords of Jim Henson apparently. But like,
that's true.
roll.
Yeah.
roll.
Hey, I'm taking
Sounds
over.
just like him. It's perfect.
It's fucked
Yeah,
up.
that's great.
It's so good.
I'm the co-pilot on the Millennium Falcon now.
Literally him.
Hey,
Hey, where do you
Hey, I'm
shit?
solo,
Where do you
right?
shit and piss when you're in
I
there?
got a tube inside my piano. I'm Rolf. I'm Rolf. I'm definitely the Muppet Rolf. The big bucks. They pay me the big bucks. I'm rich from doing this job. This is why I do it. Think of me, Muppets. Call me. Contact Jesse Cox. I don't have an agent. Please let me know. Vuffi's drug haze has caused him to destroy the intercom equipment, so Lando has to handle the fighters by himself. And they end up doing this like crazy sequence of tricks and things, and it's all fun and cool. And then Lando eventually like hides by like kind of getting away, getting them to like kind of crash into each other, and then like spiriting himself away into like
An
crack in a rock
crack.
that he gets
Like a
wedged into.
crevasse.
This part and a lot of this book, but this part, it becomes like Lost in Space. If you watch like the Netflix Lost in Space, where it's like every moment is a disaster they have
Yeah.
to fix, but it's like I never thought in a Lando book he would be spending more time like fixing a broken ship than like gambling or like doing other stuff. It's wild how much he starts like.
I kind of like this like area of the story because it's like so. It feels like Mad Max or something. Like it feels like just like a fucking weird thing. But you're right. Like Lando is not the guy that I would expect to be like getting out on his hands and knees and fixing the ship. But
he like dresses so nice.
Yeah. In his what
but
was it
it
called?
works for him because
Velour?
he's like a sleazeball kind of, and that he thinks about ruining the it's not lost on him that he's like scuffed his things.
But from the character development point of view, like I can't think of a better thing to make him like love the Falcon fast than making him have to like drag it with him across the galaxy like his baby. And that's definitely why this is here. But like, come on, guys, this is fucking from The Empire Strikes Back. This scene occurs in The Empire Strikes Back. Like, what do you got? Come on. The difference here is that, of course, this asteroid is plated with nickel, so Vuffi's not crazy anymore, and everybody's feeling a little better because it reflects the, like...
Oh, this scene is sure. I more mean, like, some of the stuff where he's, like, out into space. Like,
no,
all that
that's
stuff
exactly what
like,
I'm saying. That stuff is, like, a little bit... It's, it's a little bit...
I mean, it's the same vibe as Han and Leia and them getting out in the asteroid and Empire, and you're like...
You guys
How
good?
does that work?
Yeah. Maybe there's a little atmosphere.
It doesn't make any sense.
I guess technically in that they're like, atmosphere seems good.
But it's just inside a guy.
Yeah, but
in
maybe
space.
maybe they got like, okay, hear me out. They eat a bunch of bullshit.
Well, this is more science oriented because in the beginning of this, they're like, there's no sound in space. And I'm like, there is in Star Wars. And then, they just get out there and it's not weird, but here he has like a full suit on.
It's like LV-426 vibes over here, yeah. In the aftermath of the dogfight, the Falcon is a mess. Unfortunately, Wewa breaks both his brittle canary legs. However, he's like stupefied crazy because of whatever happened to him in the Flamewind. And so he's just like grinning and talking about his mom and eating food when he wakes up. And he's like fine because I guess breaking bones isn't that big of a deal in Star Wars. They make him...
It really isn't because they fix it in like a second.
Well, they make him some splints first out of the Twinklewood fishing rods.
This is like what we talked about with like the knife injury and stuff where it's like when you have this kind of stuff like what would be like debilitating
it's
for us?
just
They're
the
like,
time limit.
you just throw it back.
It is debilitating, like if you're on a mission,
right?
Yeah.
But like if you can make it to a long rest, you're fine.
Yeah, if you can do like one night of D&D like rest, you're good. You can get another cast on your spells.
You can like
everything's good. Chapter 12, they lick their wounds. Like I said, they make splints for Wewa's legs out of fishing rods. Vuffi and Wewa.
This totally reminded me, just because we were talking about in the last book how they had like a cool parka that heats up.
Yeah,
we already have that apparently.
Yeah,
I met somebody that has one. I was like, I just this week was reading a book where that was science fiction, and
that feels like something that you would wear, like some like Kojima looking one. I feel like you'd be into that.
It has like a green kind of olive, like it looks like
some
a
like Yoji Shinkawa.
There's just straps for no reason in different places.
Weird like white words that like are like an enigmatic, like a reference to PT on the side.
Yeah, like it's like near where it's a language, but not any language we know. Yeah, just like that.
Did you see that on the tank for Sam Bridges' mother? It says PT 2019.
What?
Anyway, as they lick their wounds, Vuffi and Wewa try to learn the rules of Sabacc. It's about killing. It's about dead babies.
Yeah.
Death Stranding is about losing your darlings and having to live through the world with half-baked versions of your dead babies. That's what it is to be Hideo Kojima. Anyway.
Whoa.
There's a lot of stuff going on in that game. Is what
I
you're telling
forget that
me.
there's like a story, but then there's like what the real.
Yeah.
I got to just to take a quick sidestep. I got to the point in Final Fantasy 16 where I've like unlocked enough lore where it starts telling me like, here was the other description. Here's the hidden. Here's the actual meaning, and it's like, sure. The game's about this. The game's actually about like that he has to keep making babies that he doesn't want.
Lando had a rough time in business. Actually, a fucking crazy old not wizard fucked up his life all his life, which is actually the plot of Flashpoint. Okay, anyway, as they lick their wounds, Vuffi and Wewa try to learn the rules of Sabacc. Lando falls in love with the Falcon a little bit. While grounded on the atmosphereless asteroid, they make repairs and add additional radiation shielding to the chassis, which has always been on board for some reason. Vuffi takes Wewa for some money with an idiot's array and compliments Lando on his flying in an earnest way, which is crazy. While Lando is out finishing repairs, he notices that his suit is starting to overheat, and he's trying to like get people's attention. He can't send comms out, but he's got comms in, and he's got he like contacts Vuffi, who like reaches out to him by banging yes and no on the hole. Yes,
Right.
bang, two, yes. And so he's like, come out. I'm going to come get you. And he's like, no. And he sends Bossy out instead. And Bossy saves him. And then when they get back inside and look at the damn suit, he's like, somebody sabotaged the suit, Lando. Like, it's probably the bird or the lady. But maybe not the lady because she came out and saved you.
They said they cross-programmed the communicator with the cooling system.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, if you'd continued trying to call me on the radio, it would have saved you from being roasted, which is a very weird, description, but I guess that's how you sabotage it.
I mean, it's one way, right? And also, Lando says he went to the bathroom again, which is like a record for Star Wars. However, more pressing is their navigational issue. They know the designation of the asteroid that they're on, but not where it is in its orbit, so they don't know anywhere where they are in the asteroid field within the asteroid that they're on. So they decide to incorporate the modeling from the black box of Lando's erratic flying back into their course and just let that divert their course a little bit from where it was going to go in the first place, continue along it as plotted otherwise with the increasing margin of error, and then use the visual context clues at their destination to reestablish their orientation, which should be closer by a lot to Muta's estate than where they are now, thereby solving their problem.
This is
an entire chapter
what
explaining this plan.
Yeah.
it's just like this should have been cut. Like I don't know what this is like, who this is for, but
it's for him to figure out what the fuck happened, and then he left it in the book because he needed 10 more pages. Then Lando started the locker room mystery of figuring out which guest was trying to kill him, and then he starts telling them to handcuff themselves together, when suddenly that becomes a moot point because Shenga's boys are back. Shenga.
They found him. They found him in the crevasse.
Shenga's boys.
Yeah.
With nowhere.
Or they like figured out it's really the Empire. They I guess somehow figure out that he's somewhere there because don't they start bombing along it? And then it's only when
they know he's on the asteroid. Yeah. So with nowhere to go, they're being wedged inside an asteroid. These guys are getting ever closer on their like search runs. Lando thinks outside the box, diverts all power in the ship to the shields as the fighters get closer and closer. Once the shields have enough power to like sort of like be a little bit stronger, he starts to slowly expand the field of the shields further and further away from the hull because where it normally sits is like slightly below the hull for some reason. I don't know exactly the thought process on that, but apparently the very like top layer of ship is the outside, and then just a centimeter
except in the movies.
Well,
where you see it hit like the outside and like
sure. I'm just saying what it said in the goddamn book. It's like basically what he did is he starts it below, and maybe the Falcon had bad shields at one point because obviously
I think he just made up for this next part to
but
work.
what he did was he slowly expanded the shields wider to where you would expect to see them in Star Wars, and in doing that, like put pressure on either side of the asteroid, cracked the asteroid open, exposing all the fighters, which are again like atmosphere type fighters that are like being dragged up into space. They're like janky, shitty things. They get pummeled with the fucking radiation from the Flamewind. They're dying all over the place. Lando skids out of there and just hightails it out like a fucking hero. And that's what happens. They're just free. It's a kind of cool scene in that way.
It's kind of like when they're on that planet with the ants in the comics.
Yes.
And then it like weakens it. It is a cool maneuver. The idea of like, they really do a lot of shield stuff in this, like more than usual. It's just the idea that it's like below the hull is like visually wrong.
I just don't know like what that is. Like, I don't know what that thinking is, but it was cool. It was like a cool notion. As Hueva's bones are slowly knitted back together, Lando reflects on his newfound life as a scoundrel and smuggler, and now like kind of a killer pilot too, I guess, and wonders exactly what it is. He's like, I'm good at flying too. Like maybe I should do this. But he's like, but I'm like still a pretty good guy. Like, I don't really understand why somebody's trying to fucking kill me all the time. Like, I feel like I'm like being true. Like, I'm like being a bro to most people. I don't get it. And he's like, you know what? When this is all over, I'm going to figure out how to do this, but like, I'm going to like audit myself and like figure out what the fuck is happening and why people are always trying to kill me. Cause this cannot be. He's like, this cannot be how this is. This is fucking stupid.
And he's correct that it's absurd.
It's funny because what he is describing as something that should not be the way to live and is clearly not the way to do this right is literally the only situation that we have ever seen Han Solo in the entire Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking funny. Buaha Muta is bored of the giant orgy that he commissioned. He is extremely obese, but was once a normal-sized guy 100 years back. He hasn't used his own hands for 5 years. He is bored of everything, and he is frustrated at his apparent desire to nevertheless keep existing. He cries about it, but does not even realize it. Rulker Gepta, meanwhile, is in his hidden place.
So, based on the way they describe him, Is he supposed to be like Baron Harkonnen?
A little bit, yeah. That's the vibe I got, except not malicious. He's just like...
He's like a big fat dandy.
Yeah, and he's kind of bored with life.
A big bloated dandy who looks like
But
that
then
vampire
also,
from Blade.
because it's not even him anymore.
I get
How
the
much
sense...
of, like, what I was thinking of because of the way they described how he had almost, like, lost himself in Bohoamata is, like, part of his conversion isn't like how the scrolls work or something.
Yes.
Like, you get their
You are
personality.
them. You are
so
them,
you're like,
yeah.
he, like, did get lost in the character a little bit.
You don't like play them all the time in some forms of shape-shifting, right? Like, and I feel like that's what's going on here is he has like this like other side of himself that he like flips out and like wears, and it like drives, and he like is in there and he can like spring his trap when he needs to, but I think it just leaves that dude on autopilot because like I believe that at this point it's supposed to be him, right? Like where he is in his hidden place in this scene is inside of the body of Bohua, right?
Well, and they have in this chapter, I think, like both their perspectives or something, and but it's like
It's
based
really
on,
one scene
based on how they
and then
describe
his
it, he
scene.
would have already taken over for him.
Yeah, so like my feeling is that his thoughts are independent from his shape change body, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Rulker Gepta also knows what a 4-leaf clover is, just in case you were wondering. Lando has been rolling cigarettes from his crushed cigars, which is the saddest thing I've ever heard. He discovers the space that will eventually hide Luke and Han from stormtroopers on the Death Star and thinks about making it into storage lockers. But right now he throws these fucking 2 cops that he hates into it because he knows it's uncomfortable and he's getting enjoyment out of it. And they're in their spacesuits because it's like a dank hole in the ship. And when they get to Mutda's spot, they test the Lasai before they go in, which is legit because he don't want to go down for fake drugs. And they're greeted by a security craft, which Vuffi can communicate. They use modulated lasers because the Flamewind like blocks all communication, so they shoot a laser directly into the cockpit. Vuffi can like translate that laser. He shoots a laser out of his eye directly back into their cockpit to like communicate in like a ad hoc way with them from ship to ship, which was cool. They use the password Dubisor, which is a hilarious word. I don't know exactly what it means.
Dubisor?
Yeah, that's exactly what I heard.
Yeah.
Dubisor is like a thing that we all
That's
tried
what
to
I
make
am.
in college when we just had,
Like a stegosaurus that's made of joints.
like after the cross joint
Dubosaurus Rex.
from whatever with Pineapple Express, we were like, make it a dinosaur.
You ever seen one in the wild, a cross joint?
No.
It's not a good design for a joint, in my opinion. But
It's
maybe
like the crossguard lightsaber.
yeah, there's at least some logic to the cross
in
guard.
in many ways.
There's some
A
logic.
cross
to the
joint
crossguard.
seems like a waste of money.
What the crossguard
The
light.
crossguard lightsaber was just to look different and cool.
What I mean is, if it was a good crossguard for a lightsaber, it would actually be like this, like down over the hands, and lightsabers coming out and going down, so that you can't just chop them off. Like it has to, like the emitter has to cut, like the emitter has to cover. Like the problem is you can cut them off. Anyway, if you're fighting a guy with a lightsaber, you just slide the lightsaber down Kylo Ren's blade. You will just cut his little things right off and cut his hands off. They don't protect him. Anyway, the password was Dubisor. They sat down in a field for the handoff. In chapter 14, Lando sees the giant orgy from the air on approach to the estate, which is on an asteroid that is only 15 kilometers wide and 3 kilometers thin. So this is
It's a big old orgy.
it's a big orgy, but it's a tiny asteroid comparatively. Basically, all that's on here is like the grounds of this mansion
And the orgy.
and like a big orgy and like some green fields. He hides Vuffi in the ceiling to keep things running for a quick getaway, tells him to leave with or without him in 8 hours. And if it's without him, then he's now Lando's legal heir. I think they love each other. The cops,
they did this with Bollocks, right?
Yeah.
I think I think that the relationship between Han and Bollocks is not as deep as the relationship between Vuffi Raa and Lando. I think Lando doesn't see
I think that's because Lando would have sex with anything.
Han is demonstrably mean to droids all the time, even Bollocks and Blue Max in a real way.
Lando,
I think
would
because
bang a
Lando and
droid.
Vuffi are like the only 2 characters.
It's like Chewbacca.
Like they just talk. Like he already has Chewbacca, but like they do, and more of those books are like them doing stuff than talking back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's bad because they did it before. I'm just saying like it is very much that where, and in both cases they like earned. I believe that would be like the play based on their
and they're
interactions.
unique. Like Bollocks and Blue Max is kind of an interesting way of doing a droid. Like
I made a note of like so far every different main droid has been an actually different take and very interesting, like a cool concept.
much more whimsical than
now they're
they
like
are.
this 900 C-3POs, or R2,
Yeah,
but
he's like a fucking. He says fuck. He's R2D2, but he says fucking
and
bitch.
he's a little racist.
You little fucking bitch. That's what's his name is? Grunker? What's his name?
Grunker?
That shitty
Chopper.
R2 unit, Chopper? Yeah. Fuck you, bitch. I'm a fucking
Dude, I love that you can hear Chopper swear.
He's like, you little bastard.
I've never
genuinely
thought I could
love that.
hear a droid say the C word in their
he
like a
just
really
man
hard
said
C
it.
word in their own language, but I'm like, that guy just said
Absolutely.
When that
Absolutely.
is he real yet?
Yeah.
He's real. Does he like say cuss words in real life?
Chopper is literally,
In Mandalorian?
not only is he in the Ahsoka show, but he's also in Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, I
They have a
forgot.
chopper unit that like goes around and goes.
I haven't been to Galaxy's Edge in a while.
I haven't been to Disney.
I'm pretty anti just
4 years.
any big company right now, but like I think Chopper is a funny droid, but he is lame fundamentally because he doesn't even have a
Sure.
different shape. Give him a fucking look we haven't seen before. He's a fucking main character. Like, what are we doing?
I mean,
dude, what's the one from Andor? The droid.
Oh
like,
man, a great
what
droid.
a fucking cool like.
The anxious droid.
It like also just looks very different than
It's very frail and cute.
It's
and
yeah. I'm just like
Yeah.
sick. You did it. You like made a new looking droid that works 100%.
And I liked you know what droid I liked? BD1. He's a cool droid.
yeah.
I like him. He's just Flasks from Elden Ring, but he's good.
He's so much more, dude. Well, he's a couple things more.
The cops
He scans.
He scans. The cops are
He's
in
detective mode.
the cops are in secret compartments in their suits in case the ship is flooded with poison gas, which they do sometimes when a place is under quarantine to like kill produce or like bugs or whatever that might get on the planet. So before he leads them to it, Lando visits Bossy one more time, gets her to give him his promised money before heading out to face Mutta because he might die. This is the last step of the process. Bossy is not happy. Wewa and Lando both no shave and a haircut, which is written on Earth in 1899.
Dude,
But they use it anyway to communicate. Lando makes his way into the abandoned estate with two unfriendly guards, and when he gets to Mutta, there's lots of tension around safely handling the drugs, which Lando makes harder by casually keeping them inside his own helmet. But in the end, it all turns out okay. Mutta shows Lando the 20 million that he has for the Lasai, which blows Lando's mind, but he keeps it together. And just as things seem like they're going to turn out okay, Bossy and Wewa burst in to arrest Mutta, who is not surprised in the least, and indeed gives a nod to Wewa, who then turns and uses his giant gun that he's been holding onto like Chekhov's gun for the entire time to blow Bossy's head right off her
Absolutely
shoulders.
dead. Gone.
I thought he just used the blaster to shoot.
He just went, bam!
Yep.
With that thing that you've been thinking about since page 10. Or
When they described that he like had it in my head, I thought it was like a super jet. I was like so excited for him to do something crazy with it that he just burst out and just shot her. I thought he had a regular blaster because of the way that it went down.
What is it Logan? Is it the Wolverine movie where that guy's like what movie is it? Where he like oh no, you know what it is? It's Alien Resurrection, I think, where the guy has this exact setup in his sleeves. He has the like he like wears guns in his sleeves all the time, and then when things go down, he just like grabs his guns and they pop out. I think that's what it is. It's just like bird guys aren't cool. He was like, I want to put my head under my wing. I wish
also like equilibrium, like it, like
Yeah.
the idea of like a spring-loaded guns are
yeah, it's a cool idea, but this guy, he's
probably
like,
Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I
I'm not gonna check. Oh fuck, that's a perfect DVD or VHS. I gotta get that on VHS.
I think I have it still.
VHS.
Yeah, the vibe is.
I'm back in VHS.
the
land
vibe
right
is
now.
large.
And it's great. I just watched Batman Mask of the Phantasm
Oh.
last week on
good
VHS.
movie.
Yo, the 4K Blu-ray of that is also
I
fascinating.
have
Yeah,
that version
yeah.
of it, and it's great. But I'll tell you, it's also fucking great
Oh yeah,
crunched.
yeah, big crunch. Anyway, to explain Bossy's head getting blown off, Wewa the avian.
Also, this becomes Cowboy Bebop, where they like mention half floating carcass like drifting.
Why is it drifting? I'm not sure.
Because the gravity's
Yeah.
low, but I like it got
morbid,
intense.
Yeah, morbid, and also like this is what I'm talking about bits though, because there's like a bit almost like Seven Psychopaths, fucking Snatch kind of vibe to this whole story. Because as it happens, Wewa the avian really just wants to be a chef. That's his whole dream.
Dude, I could
he
not
hates
believe
being a cop.
this whole breakdown.
He hates being a violent cop. He wants to be a chef. Mutta comes to him offering him way out of government work, path to resuming culinary school. He jumped at the opportunity to sell out all his fellows, his duty, his office. He was slowed by Lob adding Bossy to the crew, which is what that meeting was about. Tried to kill Lando on the asteroid to make things easier on himself because then he could just kill Bossy too. But in the end, Mutta never meant to help him, shoots him in the heart, which is not where you would expect it to be on a humanoid being, but I guess that's why birds are built different. Shoots him cleanly through the heart, like in his abdomen somewhere. It's kind of funny. And then where did I go? Lando realizes he's probably about to be killed too. And over a duo of amazing cigars they share, he tries to make a deal with this man, Mutta.
Yeah, he makes him wear a pair of force shackles, which is just cuff bands, and then there's like, they're connected by adjustable miniature tractor beam.
I call these
first class
pod racer
and
handcuffs.
very expensive.
Pod racer handcuffs.
It's like, I don't know, anytime they're like, oh, it's miniaturized Death Star, like miniaturized tractor beam, you're like,
shut up.
why?
Because they don't know.
Why is it just magnetic or electric?
Nobody knows.
Why do you have
Nobody
to say
knows.
a miniature tractor beam?
Because it's 1983, and they're like, that big thing that pulls the ships? This
is like it pulls your hands.
They don't even have the context that tractor beams are large at this time. Because again, this is it. There's just been like two stuff. Like, tractor beams might be like things in your house when you want something. When you pull the button and the thing reaches and grabs, like from a toy store, like the Nintendo made.
Yeah, I was like, wasn't that fucking what's his face?
Yeah, Yokoi. Yeah, Gunpei Yokoi from Nintendo.
Yokai Watch.
No. Yeah, no? Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of Yokai Watch. So he then realizes, actually, I'm not going to make a deal with you. I'd rather keep you with me rather than kill you because guess what? This whole time I was Roker Gepta and I'm a shape changer. Yo, we've been talking about it a lot. We spoiled it, but it was pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, at the time I loved it.
So last time they talked about his like body everting. Now it says the obese trillionaire's body began to blur, its colors swirling together, its outline dissolving. It was replaced by the somewhat smaller form of an individual swathed in gray from tip to toe.
Because he changed from one to the other, right? Instead of from a bug to a man. So he didn't evert. He just changed his
So before it was like he was Roker, then he like went to his regular form, then back to Roker. Here it was just like swirl.
He went from fat guy to his like sorcerer form.
Skinny guy.
In the fucking picture that's on the cover of the book, which you should look up if you haven't, they were going a little Mando wild on the enemy armor designs. It's just like pieces of Boba Fett's armor.
His security is...
Yeah, like
it's like
big head.
Pieces fell off and then grew a different guard.
It's like a Boba Fett shy guy is what it looks like.
Their heads are too big.
Yeah, it's like a little bit too big.
And then Roker is just like the Emperor plus his chest piece plus KOTOR 2 mask.
Yeah, he literally, it's like they just like did like a Boba Fett fire sale on that shit. So it's Roker Gepta. Lando imagines he's a boy again, wishes he never went down the path that led him here. He awakens on a table outside on the lawn, and Gepta tells him he's about to be tortured.
Full on Bond moment where he's like, I'll torture you for weeks.
By chagrin. Which I don't know if like to my chagrin was as big of a saying in the 80s, but I
torture
like
by chagrin is such a not cool name.
It feels,
it's like whenever a like villain says modicum, where you're like, don't use that word. That's not cool when you say it.
If I had never heard of chagrin as a term, and you told me I was going to be tortured by chagrin,
you'd think it was a guy named Chagrin?
I think it was like the Borgullet. I think it was like the fucking Borgullet. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is a chagrin? What is that? Yeah. So maybe it's supposed to be...
That's how you fucking sell something, being like, torture by chagrin!
Yeah. But I mean, you can't hear them. That might have been exactly what he did.
That's the only way to sell that.
We don't have audio.
I made it, you know?
Yes!
Nobody was there to record it.
Come, Muttley!
When it actually occurred, nobody recorded it, but we'll have to... We can use our minds.
Yeah.
Gepta uses his powers, quote unquote, to make Lando relive all the fear he'd ever pushed down in his life, all the way back to being a kid and losing his mom in a crowd. And when he was in a horror memory inside the Falcon, he said that firing the lasers might as well have been like firing pink lemonade, which also exists in the Star Wars universe.
This is another cool idea that I think was like undone by the actual just writing of it.
It's not for a movie.
Like they have to like,
it should be for a movie.
Yes, but they also do a thing where they just half jump to memories from the book so that you understand not the scariest moments of his life, maybe him being
Sabacc,
on
Rafa,
and like the first time that he did like Sabacc but then changed in front was like kind of cool. And then even the idea of him being a child and losing his mother in a crowd, which is like
he said he never trusted the world again. Yeah.
Like real and great was kind of cool, but then they had to keep jumping back to like, and stuff from the book that you would know, but it wasn't like, I don't know. The whole thing kind of came together weirdly where I was like,
I didn't
damn,
mind.
We should do like really more harrowing. Like this also replace all these dumb scenes that we already saw him not being worried.
Just make up ones
and put like the first time he was in love. Do like
a guy who almost killed him with a knife. Like a guy who almost killed him with a knife one time. Like just cool things that make him seem cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The time he met his friend Lobot that we don't know yet.
it goes a little long, dude. The Lobot story in that Lando comic still gets me to this day. I think about
He was
it.
like
all
a
the time.
good. He was like a good normal dude. He
Yeah.
was like, I'll sacrifice myself for
Dude,
you, sir.
it's so-
that's
so
that's
good
the
that-
legend. That's the canon. That's the canon Lobot, not the legends. But damn,
Yeah.
It's so good that whenever like I see another story with him, I'm just sad because that's the version.
it was so good. Charles Sewell, you had me. You got me, Charles. Gepta reveals that literally Lando's entire terrible career and the past little while had all been his doing, including in getting invited to Oseon, including getting the job to take down Mutto, whom he replaced. All to get Lando here with more money in front of him than he ever had, only to not be able to use it, and then to be tortured, and then to die. That was his whole plan. He also experiences every bit of pain that Lando does while he does this process of torturing him by chagrin. So that just shows you how fucked up this guy is that he's willing to also live through all of Lando's pain just to make Lando relive it, which is hilarious. Next, chapter 17. Suddenly, the dome over the estate is breached.
And it's like Inception, where it's like, because he's like, oh, that was so traumatic. I could barely stand it myself. Yes, that's right. To do this, I have to like also suffer through it too.
Yeah.
So I've seen every one, like one of your memories, which doesn't really mean anything.
It's just the ones that he relived, all the bad ones. He's like, I went through it also, just so you know.
You see, the art of torture by chagrin requires that its practitioner experience what the subject experiences. He must guide the mind of the subject into always deeper, always more terrifying waters. He must suffer the experiences himself in order to assure the quality, the depth, the texture of it. And in your case, Captain, and in mine, to make sure it is suitable as revenge. Yes, I have a way of living in your head. And yes, I'm willing to suffer every bit of pain you suffer so that I will know that I'm torturing you enough.
Yeah, so he can see it. He can see for himself.
Which I guess is like almost cool, but then it's like...
It's just psycho. He's just...
Also, it was all like, I have a way of getting in your head is what he says, or a way of living in your head. Was that just teeing up that later he finds the Matrix plug?
Yes. This is the Duelists, except one guy doesn't know he's in the Duelists. That's what this story is between these two guys. Chapter 17.
God, that's such a good fucking... You're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Suddenly the dome...
Even in the Duelist, he's kind of like, what are we doing?
One of them kind of realizes he shouldn't be in the Duelists by the end
Yeah.
of the Duelists. Suddenly the dome over the estate is breached. A strong wind begins to blow because it's like a full-on breach. Lando sees his chance. He used some of the same fishing pole wood, the tinkle wood that they used to splint Weib's legs. He made like armor cuffs for parrying knife attacks on his wrists. And because of that, the bonds around his wrists are like a little bit wider than they might be.
So
he slips the wood out from between his wrists, and then he's able to like painfully, like without degloving his hand, he's able to like get his hand out, and then he takes one of the pieces of the wood.
What it sounds like is like when people break their thumbs to get out of a thing.
But he just broke his little cuffs.
They should have just done that, but instead they had to overly explain that he put these rods. Like, it seems so weird that it was like, oh, also I had time to like fully put an exoskeleton into the suit.
Well, it's because it's not a fully exoskeleton in the suit. He's literally he just put like fucking like
on
some
his arms and his
like
legs.
sushi mats around his fucking arms and legs so that he could like parry a knife attack. But like he takes one of the pieces of wood that he used because it doesn't show up on, the whole reason he did it is because he could get all the way there without being scanned. It's not the ideal way, but it's made of wood, so he like did it. And so like at this point, he doesn't just do that. He breaks them and then uses the piece to stab Roker Gepta in the eye, who then like, I don't know, like goes and like spirals away to wherever Darth Vader went when Han Solo shot him. Bad guy Loseville for like a few seconds so that he's out of the picture for a little while. And then, because as we know, Roker Gepta could just turn back into a bug and back into a man, and then he wouldn't have the wound anymore, but that's not the point here. He gets up, he finds one of Vuffi's arms in the grass. It leads him away to the Falcon. He says, Vuffi Raa, pull yourself together, which is his catchphrase that we all love from this book, including Vuffi Raa, who loves it and laughs, and they laugh and laugh.
Oh, the exact quote
don't.
is that he, like, the wind... He stumbled backwards and then said, the wind caught his voluminous cloak and took him away in a tumbling, fabric-covered ball of curses.
Yeah, he blasted
He
off
vanished
again!
into a nearby grove of thorn trees. There was more screaming.
Yeah.
I was like, this is Clown Town. I can't believe, like, the wind... Are you talking about the flame wind? What wind on this asteroid that you said that there's like no...
I think
It's
that's
the
what
wind.
it's supposed to
No,
be.
what happened was there was a breach. Somebody breached. It was Shenga.
The fighter pilots attack
Shenga
and save Lando.
blasted a hole in, and then Vuffi.
Oh, the decompression. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
cyclone level wind.
this happens so quickly.
Yeah.
They're like doing Inception, the like weird version, and then he's a fishing rod is like stuck in his eye, and then he does blast off again, and it's like, pull yourself together, Vuffi Raa is like there. You're
That's
like,
what I'm saying. It's bits, dude. It's bits.
It is.
Yeah. And then
Kung Pao or whatever.
it really is. And then they show up, and the Shanga crew guys, there's only 5 of them left by now. He started with 25 guys. There's 5
Lando's
left.
like, don't make me kill the rest of
He's
you.
like, Jesus. He shows up and like they throw the big engine that they've been taking around with him everywhere. They just throw it at the asteroid at this point. And that's like a huge problem. And then, what am I saying? So yeah, he stabs in the eye, goes to the Falcon. They throw the asteroid, and then Gepta escapes in his little fighter and runs off to the Villainous, a true master of illusion who changes back to his longtime human shape and instantly heals all his wounds and realizes his fucking cat is dead, and he gets fucking pissed. And he's like, I'll get you, Lando, goddammit! And he doesn't go back and kill Lando, he just goes home. Finally, he and Vuffi catch up to Shanga himself, and when they pull him out of his busted-ass fighter, he's an old-ass man who's seemingly very mad at Lando for destroying his entire world, but of course, that is not what happens. And in the last chapter, which is a crazy chapter for exposition, he says, when they finally calm things down and get him talking, even Vuffi gets involved in this fight and like has to power down.
This is the craziest thing because all we hear about is how he can't do anything violent. And I thought this was him coming on. When I was reading this, I was like, he's actually a murder bot. It's all been a lie. No, he still is a pacifist. He just gets to sometimes fucking take out a dude.
In order to do it, he had to reboot his entire system. It debilitated him in a way that he can't do this and have no consequence. I mean, obviously he recovered quite quickly because he's a important part of the story, but like the idea is that he does this and it violates his programming, and so he like passes out.
He also gets like punched in his torso.
Yeah, but like what it says is that Lando's like, he violated his programming to fight you, and now he like can't even fucking function. He's like fucked up. And so when that calms down and they get to talking, and Lando has like a knife at the dude's neck or whatever, it turns out that he's been after Vuffi, not Lando, the whole time, because his previous owner from the last book, the sociologist, anthropologist guy that Lando won Vuffi Raa off of, dressed him up, put flesh on the outside of his droid body, and pretended he was like a diplomat to like go to this region of space that was thought to be like lost.
Rentasia.
Yeah, Rentasia. Found a new civilization there that had been like rebuilding from the old one, and
it was like no one knows how long ago
was like a
human beings settled there. Long before the Republic, certainly.
Yeah.
Long before any historian is willing to admit there was space flight. But it exists and was totally isolated from the rest of civilization, not aware of it any more than they were. The
It's
idea
like a
of
prime directive
This
scenario.
reminded me almost of like a storyteller being like, but it exists, and it was totally like, it sounds like a guy being like, trust me, it was just from before then, and whatever, it was a place.
Well, think about it this way. Do you ever think about like Polynesian culture and how like crazy it is that they are like from all the places that they're from, and they got to all the places that they are like in a time before they even had anything resembling a ship? Like they just got on these like little boats and would just like
Go.
Well,
listen, I'm not saying it's an exact explanation, but I own Moana on Blu-ray.
Right.
I've seen how you can use your hand and the stars.
and turn into water.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the coconut people got you, but like I get it.
No.
Maui shows up and pulls
Yes.
you to the place you need to go
The
to.
Rock.
Honestly, I bet like if we actually did 5 minutes of research on this, we'd find out that like for every person that got in a canoe or whatever and found a beautiful new island, thousands died in the ocean.
This reminds me of like, because I do think that sometimes people like overly romanticize the past. Was it you tell me the bat thing?
About the spies?
No, about like scientists were like amazed by bats. They're like, how are they able to like fly around and echolocate so accurately? And it turns out they run into shit all the fucking. It's actually like not elegant.
It's not that great. Yeah.
They like hit crap all the time, and it's like that where it's like they did this, and it's like yes, 95% died, but
Right.
yes,
I thought you were talking about the plan in World War II
that also
where
has
they
inspired
were
me.
like bats will seek attics, so we'll just put fire on bats.
A belfry in my house.
So they just let bats into a town. They just let bats into a town.
Did you guys do an episode on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I need to find that. What's it called?
It's the one that's like with an author. It's called
Yeah,
the
we have a
Dirty
guest
Tricks.
on.
The Dirty Tricks Department.
Yeah.
It's literally like the bats go into the buildings. They do start fires in the buildings, but it's just like a bunch of buildings in town are
What was
like
one where they tried? Was it the Frozen? They tried to drop
Dude,
Frozen.
the cats. They were like, cats always land on their feet, so we'll strap bombs to cats, and then we'll drop them from high, and then it'll be like
There's just a bunch
Win-win.
of frozen cats in
And they
the ground.
died.
And they just like dropped a bunch of frozen cats out of a plane. And they were like, let's try that again.
That the stories that you're talking about, that it's like whenever you learn something and it changes your whole view. Like I almost can believe anything because you're like, with millions of dollars and power, did that.
That's part of
that
how
was
we-
a thing that happened.
That was part of the
so-
process that we eventually beat the Nazis. Is we put bats in the belfry and lit them on fire.
They straight up went to the American people and said, like, one of those ideas was from a dentist.
Yeah.
They were like, give us your ideas. Like,
How-
they
how
were
do we fuck
taking
up the
everything.
Nazis? Yeah.
So, you know.
It's like half of Batman's rogues gallery does this.
Yeah,
Yes,
literally.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, Batman. Enjoy these.
There was-
Penguin or some other
there
fucking
was a
bullshit.
there was a serious initiative to get Fidel Castro an exploding cigar.
Sure.
Hilarious. Anyway, so they
Like
get
one
him.
of those joke ones from cartoons.
Yeah, but like instead
Real,
of
like
except
TNT.
except his head would be off. Can you imagine? It's like a dynamite stick painted like his. Anyway.
You know, someone was like, could we do it?
And it's like already like fucking going like fucking Looney Tunes. Like it's like anyway.
it's so stupid.
So they find these people in this place where there's supposed to be no one, and it's like prime directive stuff where they can like get from planet to planet, but they can't like go intergalactic. They can't do hyperspace or anything like that.
Sure,
They're very
sure.
localized to this area. They get in there and they start to like colonize them, and they like make them more like modernized, and it's good. And it's kind of like a Japan situation is what the vibe is, right? It's like what they're kind of talking about is when like white people got to Japan and just started like juicing them up. But instead of it being like what happened in real life, which is that Japan became like a world power, what happened was that they just decided the people there were starting to get too upset at the changes that the leadership was imposing upon them, so they exterminated them. Kind of like the Native American tribes.
It was slavery to like work for the empire, and they also went in and were like, this is the weirdest thing because I don't think the empire would care. Usually the empire just comes in and does whatever, but that they were trying to like, what do you call them? No, you now go to empire schools.
You
don't
colonizing
like
them,
yeah, like that was just weird because I never thought of the empire. I mean, they're an empire, but usually they're just like
The new
do
empire,
what we say or you die.
The new
idea
empire
that
is
they even
way more
tried
racist.
to like
Yeah.
that he was like Vuffi Raa, you're gonna
That
pretend
is-
to be this.
that
is
is
the
the cra-
weirdest
so-
part, except for they wouldn't have a plot if he wasn't.
Just
that way.
imagining
Right.
a civilization for like decades building itself up in the name of Vuffi Raa, who's like on posters. He goes by the name Vuffi Raa. He's got like flesh on his body.
Well, he said we were there for 700 standard days.
Okay, yeah, okay, whatever it is. 700 days is still 2 years. So like literally posters everywhere, news coverage about this guy. And then now at this point, this guy finds out that dude was just a robot that was like a fucking, like that's like an android cuckoo bird president.
yeah.
That's like the craziest thing I've ever heard. So that's what happens. Vuffi Raa feels guilty for what he did, even if he was just following his programming. And though they decide not to kill Shanga and to like leave him in the other room until he decides to be their friend, Vuffi Raa's like, hey, Lando, have you ever considered like maybe giving that 20 million to Shanga because he could like rebuild his people and like.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about that?
And then Lando's like, nope, I'm gonna enjoy this money, and that's the end.
That's
of the book.
the end of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. He pulls a Jack Burton.
Yeah.
Where he's like, no,
Yeah, no way. And
I
then
will
that's
not
it.
do that. The end.
And I am so excited to read the Star Cave of Thambaka. I've like separate from this being Star Wars, and I have to like relate my opinion of it to whether or not it is Star Wars, right, or whatever, or where it fits into the like development of Star Wars as a property.
I mean, nowhere's the true answer. If it's nowhere, it exists in 1983, and then this is the last book for almost a decade.
That's true, but it does like Solo is here. Like there's still parallels to stuff. I think Roker Gepta survives beyond the Lando books. I think.
Probably. I mean,
I think
most
we
of this-
already know
yeah.
that he does based on our like little lookings into things
Well,
or whatever.
I just think he does, and I think like what I'm saying is that like separate from like what it means.
I genuinely hope he doesn't, but like it's Star Wars.
Separate from what it means to Star Wars, because maybe I just missed the intertextuality of Star Wars. That's kind of my theory right now, is that like I see a lot of differences between the canon universe and the Legends universe, but we pretty much started reading the canon universe from inception, like heavily. And so everything like connects and makes sense. I realized that the big difference between the two is that the Legends universe does not stick to Han, Luke, and Leia nearly as much as the canon universe does now, right? Like pretty much.
Oh no, I mean, right now we're in that weird space, but when Thrawn appears, from that point on, it is full on. Everything's connected.
Well, Han, Luke, and Leia are connected, but like
I mean,
you get
everything's
lots.
so connected. They have the kids and what the
get
kids are up
lots of,
to, and
but
then
you get lots of other stuff also. You get lots of stories that are about like some guy
When do we get to like Tales of the like where it's like
mid 90s,
about 10 years from where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about 10. I think Dark Empire comes out in 1993. And that's where like the real Divergent stuff like starts
But
to.
we do get at some point
Full on bounty hunter stories. Yeah.
also like 1,000 years.
Yeah,
like you get like all
get
that
tons
stuff
of
too.
other stuff. But that's what I'm saying is like it's not that it's not all one thing. It's like maybe there's like a lot more like references between books. I certainly did not read them all when I was a kid. Did you?
I read every single one up until I graduated high school, and then I fell off dramatically. So when it got to like but
what are we talking about?
New
20
Jedi
books?
Order,
18 books maybe?
literally however many comics and books existed from the years 1993 to 1999, I read every single one.
Right. Yeah. So like what we're talking about maybe like of the major books that came out, probably like 20. I mean, probably like the kids' books too, but like Star Wars books.
I didn't read the kids' books. That's all right. I can say I didn't read the kids' books.
Well,
but
there's lots of different orders of kids' books too. Like,
Sure,
did you
sure,
read?
sure.
There's Junior Jedi Knights.
I never read Junior Jedi
which is
Knights.
about Anakin Skywalker
Never
and this
read
little
that.
blonde girl. And then there's Young Jedi Knights, which is about Jason and Jaina.
I read Young Jedi,
and that's like
that was,
also for kids, but like slightly older kids.
yeah, because eventually they become a whole thing in the story.
Yeah, but
So-
like they don't tie everything that happens to these characters. Like, yes, it's Han's children and stuff like that, but it's about them. It's not about Han, Luke, and Leia and what happened in the movies. They like go off, or like a fucking prince shows up and tries to like marry Princess Leia, or there's like a new villain that has nothing to do with anything that they just fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is the difference between the two fictions, in my opinion. But I'm interested to see if like the comic book style references, like fan servicey type stuff appears. Like,
Sure.
as I'm seeing it now, from the Star Wars stuff that I'm really familiar with, aka the movies and especially the recent movies, which are fresh in my memory, like I am seeing so much like live references from things all the way back to those Star Wars comics, all the way up to now, and it never stops happening. Like there's not anything that's
They're definitely pooling from that.
There's
yeah.
nothing
Well, and,
that's
like,
been ignored so far.
They're referencing it, but it doesn't necessarily like mean.
But I'm just saying, like,
full-on adaptation.
When I went and read like the Black Fleet Crisis when I was like 14 years old, I might not get a reference to like the Lando books or the Star Wars comic from back then because I didn't read that shit when I was young. I didn't
that's
read.
definitely the case. We've commented on this show, oh my God, that's where this comes from. When it's
Yeah.
clearly something we knew, we just didn't know the reference point.
I'm just so interested to see if like you see things like, oh, this abandoned ship had this. There's like pictures of this like being changing into other beings. You know, like.
Maybe.
Like leftover thing, or like maybe like in another book you return to the exploded Star's End or something. Like there's nothing like that I mean, really remember.
The best case scenario for Gepta is straight up just like he's one of many, and then those become a thing. That could be interesting. I genuinely don't know where any of this goes.
That's what I'm saying. Or like maybe he shows up and like Luke, Han, and Leia have to fight him, and Lando's like, I know this. I know this motherfucker.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, so I don't know, but I feel like the big difference right now is like that it's still not totally congealed. The thing that's keeping this from feeling like 100% like I am in the Star Wars universe right now is simply that did not exist yet.
I mean, there's no rules right now.
Exactly. Like it just simply didn't exist. And so like everything that we're getting is still like kind of like on another degree free from the stuff that we get in the kind of golden era. But does that necessarily make it better? I don't think so. But separate from its connection to Star Wars, I think these books so far have been really fun.
The entertainment value.
High.
This one, even the last one was insane, but it wasn't not interesting.
Yeah.
It's like this is interesting, and I'm a little bit frustrated from a standpoint in that anytime I think that you like contradict your own information, it's like confusing, but it's not like I did not enjoy.
And it's not like you like in bad faith just refuse to understand what he was trying to say either. You know what I mean? Like if you just go along with it, like you know, what's the scene in Looper where they're like eating breakfast and he's like, don't think about that right now. We got to get to the end of the movie or whatever it is. Like I think that kind of stuff, especially when it's this tone, like if this was like a grimdark, like serious, like badass movie type Star Wars story, I would feel kind of cheated if the like serious elements were not taken seriously and legitimized by every point in the story. But for me, the vibe of this feels like I would show, other than the orgy, which was like really out of nowhere, I could be like 13 years old.
They spoke about it broadly where it's like they come and they just let go for
right.
weeks.
I just mean like
I guess
think
that they had to like actually be like, because he also hired people to like come party there.
I would recommend this to a literate 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Is my point. My point is just like, yeah, it's like, it's still kind of in that zone. I think it's really an actual rollicking good time. I think it's like a good tone that shows the best that Star Wars can offer in terms of like non-serious business. This and the Han Solo books, I think, are great examples of that. Like, just kind of like, it's still, it's still badass. It's still fun. It's still cool. It's still definitely cool, but it's like a step towards Tintin or, Indiana Jones or something like that, where it's like a little bit more, or James Bond, where there's just a little bit more stuff that happens for goof 'em ups purposes and cartoon character type villains.
The last book really, I just wish they had nailed the like temple better.
Yeah.
It would be like Indiana Jones, where it's like you're going into some old temple and finding it. It's just, but it's also sci-fi.
This one was much more confident. This was much more of like a Star Wars book that I would feel like passes the sniff test a lot harder than it doesn't. I still don't think it does, but it passes a lot harder than the first one.
Yeah.
The first one, by
completely.
the end, I'm like, what in the hell?
I'm still not 100% on board with the writing style.
It just doesn't fit.
But book-wise, so much better than the first one.
Yeah. And the writing is not technically poor writing. It's just...
No, it's just not my style of
It's
writing.
like
It's
a
not what I
little bit
like.
too fast and loose with like earth things.
Yeah,
where you're like,
big time.
You should not have shaved and a haircut. Like there should be several things like that are just not there.
Again, he's writing those literally as bits. He's like, it might as well be pink lemonade. It's like a wacky thing to say.
Yeah.
I think it's all just in good fun here. I don't think he's considering that there will be a universe. And I really don't think that anybody was thinking about that at this time. Like the idea of the cinematic universe type thinking. I think Star Wars really was one of the first. Star Wars and Star Trek in the 90s really were the first time that I ever encountered something like that.
Yeah.
A media property that was outside of like comic books, really. But that's Lando Calrissian and the Flamewind of Oseon. Up next, we have Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Thambaka. We've got a Q&A episode also in the works for you coming up real soon because we've done now 3 episodes again. And it's a good time. We're in the Lando cavalcade. Sorry about the fires. Got us a little bit
We
fucked
got a little
up.
messed up, but we're good.
We had Christmas and New Year's, and we were feeling good. We were like, we nailed the Christmas time show. We nailed the New Year's show, and then or Thanksgiving and New Year's or whatever it was. And then it was like, oh, damn. Okay, but now I think we're back up to our normal working situation and pace, and I feel in a good headspace to keep going. And man, I'm a little scared about Droids, the cartoon, and Ewoks, the cartoon.
Not me.
It's like the whole show, which in the 80s, like one season of a cartoon, it's like 1,000,000 episodes. And then there's also comics.
Nonsense.
And then there's also comics. No, because it's just for syndication. But it's like also comics.
But also, if we just take a bunch of edibles beforehand, that changes the entire experience. And I'll have a great time.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have a great time.
I love to eat stuff while I watch.
Right, me too.
I'm
popcorn,
basically
yeah.
on edibles all the
Yeah.
time anyway.
Yeah,
in a way.
basically, yeah.
If you
I
think
can't
about
survive that.
eating
I
as
think about it, yeah.
You think about inhaling as eating.
Right,
Yeah.
right. If it goes in the mouth, it's
It's
eating.
you're headed south.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that stands up to science.
Oh, of course it does. This has been the Star Wars Old Canon Book Club.
Yep.
Your old Swockerbockers. The SWOCBC. That sounds. The SWOCBC is like
Way with five bots people really like. That's for them.
yeah,
Right.
The like chicken morphology people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he has like? Do you think it's like a planet of like birds based on Earth birds?
Kind of, but didn't they like talk about?
They're vestigial. All their bird stuff is vestigial.
It's like how we were once
Monkeys.
Monkeys,
But we can still grab shit. I'm just saying. I can still climb around. I don't have a tail anymore.
dude. You ever look at monkeys and be like, I wish my feet were like as useful as your feet were.
What is a creature that evolved from flying to not flying? That seems crazy to me.
Oh,
Maybe the platypus? I don't know shit about fuck. Guys, it's been real.
I don't think so.
It's been real.
That's right at all.
No, it's definitely not right, but it's the only bird mammal thing. Like I don't know.
I get it.
A penguin? A chicken? Is that what that is?
Did they ever have it though?
I don't know. Why would they be birds?
I don't know.
All right. Anyway, guys, it's been real. I can't get out of this episode. Stay golden like C-3PO. Keep your droids close. Keep Davis closer.
And remember, that's a Star Wars jingle.
Yeah.
Damn.
Written on Earth in 1899.
Well,
Bye.
a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
So actually, it
So
predates it.
accurate.
The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions from our listeners at patreon.com/SWOCBC. Thank you for your support. This month's Patreon Masters of the Force are Sovereign, Ian Berenade, Trevor Isom, Patrick Rowland, Matt Wars 56, Amy W, Jazz Owl, and Peacetime Mando. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with a discussion about our next selection, Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Thon Boca, a novel by L. Neil Smith. This episode was edited by Alex Del Campo and Alex Fossiani. The theme song is Venus, the Bringer of Peace by Gustav Holst, performed by the U.S. Air Force Heritage of America Band. Original show art by Jackie Whistler. See you next time.